is Miss Lewis.
Oh, you didn't go right after. You're gonna sit around. I might have switched school, but I think I'm gonna stick around until like.
Oh, yeah, no, I have not. Yeah. Was that somebody else?
If you're sticking around about how long? I got mine. Yeah, I honestly didn't know
I
until.
have like so much paper.
I Yeah. Sometimes I have to say. Usually I'm in a.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Then I got a. That's because your basketball season is. Yeah.
It's okay, I was running late and I was like, and now you're on time because I haven't started yet.
I've kind of encroached.
But
that's why I said to you, so you can see.
I did.
Look, oh, you look like a different person without your mask on. I love it. It's like, I'm like, now I know what Delia looks like. Skylay, I already knew, so. All right, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's good to see everyone.
Great. Okay, sorry, we're a few minutes late. We're just getting used to our back to normal seating arrangement. It's so exciting. All right, so I am gonna call the, uh-oh, I don't have my hammer. Oh my word, oh my God. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna call the Mashpee Public Schools School Committee Business Meeting of March 16th, 2022 to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you very much. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that the Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who have lived and been sustained on this territory for more than 10,000 years. Next, we need to ratify tonight's agenda. I have only one change, which is on the back section under new business. Ms. Howe is going to be here, and rather than have her go after all the budget business, I'm going to move her up. Do you want to do her first after Matt? Okay, yeah, so we'll do her first and then go to the athletic director. Just in the interest of getting her out of here. Any other changes or questions about the agenda? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to ratify.
Motion to ratify the agenda with the edit as suggested.
Okay, motion by Kathy,
Second.
second by Don. Any discussion? All right, Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. All right, everybody scooch their mics up a little bit so everyone can hear. Can you guys hear us all right back there? David, you can hear us? Okay, great. Okay, do we have any public comment? No, okay, great. We're already ahead of schedule. First, let's go to Skyla.
Hi, good evening. Mashpee's been pretty busy since our last meeting together a month ago. Something fun earlier in February is that the sophomore class brought some festivity as they sold some flowers, some carnations around Valentine's Day time. And so that was something fun to return. The boys basketball team celebrated their seniors, Brady Johnston, Sean Gonzalez, and Michael Perino on February 17th. Brady and Sean play, and then Michael is also a coach and helped coach with Coach Clark last year. And had a great turnout in recognition of their season, and their team also received the South Shore League Sportsmanship Award, which was awesome for our boys basketball team. And the girls basketball team honored Ellie Mitchell, Cheyenne Hendricks, and myself for senior night with a win against Cohasset back in the middle of February. Our team made history this year, going to the Elite Eight, which is the furthest in Mashpee girls basketball history. And so our whole team just wants to give a huge thank you to our Mashpee community. We had so much support as we went on with every game. And so it was just so great and so unifying for our community. Then we had February vacation, very refreshing and relaxing. And then when we came back, or right before we left, there was a little bit of a morale boost saying that masks would be optional when we returned. And then when we came back, that morale boost was present. It was there. It was nice to We have our lunch tables back. And so just like a lot of things feel a little bit more back to normal, which has been nice. Last night, the class of 2023 hosted a 3v3 basketball tournament. That's our Mashpee juniors as a class fundraiser. It was so much fun. If you had a chance to look at some of the pictures too, I mean, I stayed, but I stayed until 5 and there was still many more games to be played. It was a long tournament, but it was a lot of fun. There was teams dressed up like Batman. There was girls dressed up as 80s. There was just so many different things. And it was really fun for the juniors to be able to get some fundraising in before they head into the fall of their senior year. March is Women's History Month. And so every morning at the middle high school, there's been a student who reads a passage about an admirable woman for everyone to hear, which is a very inspiring start to the day. Senior Miley Beal hosted a tennis clinic last Saturday at middle high school to teach younger players how to play. And so that was a great turnout and very successful, especially because our tennis program is usually a bit smaller. And so hopefully her passion and the emphasis she was able to put on tennis will be able to get some more people to play in the years following hers as she's a senior. Mashpee seniors were very hard at work to submit scholarship applications for local and community scholarships last week. We're so grateful to have such a generous community. And as funny as it was, like as we're all like trying to get our stuff in last week, it's just really cool because there's so many different options for scholarships. Like that's what we're so grateful for, is that, I mean, nobody wants to write like 7 essays, but what was really nice about it is that you have the opportunity to write that many essays. There's so many different ways to support towards wherever we go to school next year. And so that was a big thing. And then last Saturday at the Casey Coombs, the boosters held the psych fair, which was big for the seniors because the funds from the psych fair go to post prom, which we're going to have at the lanes, and we're working on that now. And so with prom and post prom and graduation, senior week coming up, a lot of fun things for the seniors as the spring gets around, but that's what we have for the high school side today.
Thank you. So was Al an orange in that picture? Albert.
Yes, because did you see Bailey Houston and Robert O'Neill dressed in banana costumes?
Yeah.
Their team was fruit salad.
Fruit salad. Okay. I was like, what, why are bananas and oranges together? That's what I was trying
Fruit
to figure
salad.
out. So. Oh.
No, he was an orange.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that was a funny one. There was some other costumes too that was really good. Some people made their own custom t-shirts and that was fun. What else were some other ones? People just wore like all black. Some people wore, there's like a kid in like the sophomore freshman class that has its own like t-shirt brand. And so they wore some of those. And so there's a lot.
So was there a winner? Is there a?
There was, I think it was the Batman team, which had like Ben Squarsha, and then I don't know, but I think they're sophomores.
Oh, okay.
But
Great.
really fun.
All right.
Somebody asked Mr. Mercado if they won their game, and he said no, and somebody said, well, who did you lose to? And he said,
8th graders.
7th graders.
Well, we were in a meeting at the time. He goes, oh, I've got to go. It's our turn to play. And I think he was back in about 5 minutes.
I mean, I don't know how you play basketball in a banana costume.
Yeah,
So-
Bailey and Robert.
Yeah,
They can
right.
tell you.
Maybe not that well since they didn't.
Oh.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's all right. You can't, you have no arm movement.
They're really slippery as regard.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice. All right, Dalia.
All right. So good evening, everyone. Again, so much has happened since our last meeting. It's like I was trying to condense everything because I had 4 pages when I first started writing this, and like that's the most pages that I've ever had, trying to brainstorm out what was happening. So for starters, the middle school basketball team, both boys and girls, they ended last month in the middle of February. And although the girls didn't win, they still left off on a great note. And a lot of them are so sad that the season's over. But again, a lot of them are excited because a lot of more with the winter sports ending, like basketball and track, spring sports are finally beginning. And like when I say spring, I'm like really excited. So yesterday, boys tennis had their second captain's practice for preseason for tennis. And tomorrow the girls tennis plan to have their second captain's practice, which is kind of getting them in shape and ready for the season. Our first actual practice after school starts on Monday, and a lot of girls are excited because we have a lot of new people coming from 7th grade and even 8th grade and high school it's really exciting because a lot more girls are joining this year than they did last year, and boys too. So as well as tennis, softball and spring track are also starting up. So they've started their captain's practices and signups during homeroom. A lot of people are excited because there's so many sports in the spring that are outside, and a lot of people have been dying to start sports outside. And I know one of my friends was like jumping through the roof when she was like, track is starting. And I was like, yeah, I know. And she was just so excited. She even, she took time in her intro to engineering class to make this like engraved like laser thing that lit up and it said track, and she was so excited about it. So off of the note of sports, middle school last week on the 18th met after school for student body government and / students council. And we started making individual cards for our middle school teachers. So since it was previously teacher appreciation, we tried to brainstorm ways that we could show our appreciation for them. So in our last meeting, we brainstormed making these little cards and painting rocks. So we sent out forms to the middle school we sent Google Forms out to the middle school teachers, like asking them simple questions like their favorite color, their favorite candy, things that inspire them. And we took the results, or some of the results that we got back for our last meeting, and we started individually making cards with like the colors that they liked, and we're gonna individually give them little candies that they said were their favorites. And I think it's really nice because the students are individually taking teachers that they've had or that they really appreciate. And even though we're signing off from student body government, we're adding little notes that are specifically from us. And I think it's just so sweet. A week prior to student council, the student council / middle school meeting this month, we also had an honor society meeting. And in this meeting, we discussed volunteering opportunities for Ruck per Hit, which is a 20-mile ruck race where so teams of 4, they carry this 50-pound backpack and they trade it off every 50 miles. And this is to raise money for veterans that are returning. So like for like social emotional animals or for like surgeries or stuff like that. And I think that's awesome. And although like we're not doing the race, we wanted to volunteer. So we're going to help set up, and we're going to do face painting. And although not all of us are artists, we still want to help. So some of us that aren't as gifted are going to be helping set up and help clean up afterwards. And then the ones that volunteer are going to be doing painting the faces. And I think it's just going to bring the already heightened mood of the race like 10 times higher, which I'm excited for. We also discussed our upcoming induction ceremony on Saturday, April 30th at 6:30. And I'm excited. So we're going to be welcoming new inductees from the 7th and the 8th grade. And it's just going to be a different feel this year because, again, we have masks are optional now, and it's just a game changer. So a lot of my friends and peers are really excited for that. So off that note, progress reports came out this week. So we're halfway through quarter 3, which is crazy to me. And it's really interesting to think about this, but it was like these progress reports were really important for 7th graders, especially because it's their first time being able to having this many options of classes that they'll pick. And in these progress reports, teachers recommended them for like certain classes that they'll take next year, which kind of got their brain like moving about what classes they're going to take next year. And this year they have the option between CP regular classes and honors classes. And it's just such an important decision to make. So it's going to be a really big thing for them. And it's also important for the 8th graders because they have a lot more electives that are opening up, and they have their first pre-AP class that's opening up for them. And it's the pre-AP US history. A lot of people are taking that into big consideration because it's their first pre-AP class ever. So it's a monumental thing for us. And although it might not seem as important to some people, it is really important for us because like we're in middle school, but if you think about it, we're just 2 and 1 year away from high school, which is crazy to think about. So off that note, so environmental club, we had a meeting yesterday during homeroom and we finally put into motion a beach cleanup that we're going to be doing on April 9th from 12 to 2. So in planning this, we had to figure out like what the tides would be like and the weather. And we're planning to do it only if it doesn't rain, but we're still unsure because on the 10th, the day after, it is supposed to rain. So we're trying to take that into consideration.
Excuse me, Delia, I need to tell you, as the NOAA
Yes.
representative in the room, that any forecast outside of 6 days is notoriously unreliable.
Yeah, that's what.
We do not have the scientific expertise to forecast a month in advance.
Yeah, that's why we're not very worried about it, but we still wanted to take it into
If Congress
consideration.
doubled our budget, we might be able to do that, but we can't, I can't promise that.
Yeah.
That's not this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, leaving off on that note, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the school masks the mandate being lifted, and as well as the tables being implemented in our lunch, which both have been a game changer. And it's crazy because they both happened after break. So it's just like, wow, because like we went from before break, like desks 6 feet apart at lunch, masks on, like, and from no masks, tables. And I love the tables because they're not like before when they were like road, but they're different. So people still feel, so it's not as big and people still feel the comfort. And there are still separate desks too along the sides for students that just aren't comfortable yet. And I think it's just awesome. And a lot of my peers, well, I have peers and friends that both still choose to wear the masks and friends that don't. And they love that they have the option to. And I'm so happy with my community because neither of the students that wanted to take them off and wanted to keep them on, they didn't feel bad about their decision because all of the students just respected everyone's opinion. And it was just so nice because everyone was happy about keeping them on and leaving them off. And there was no like judgment to anyone. I just thought that was so nice. And it really made me appreciate my Mashpee community. Overall, the mask mandate being lifted and the tables being implemented, like it removed a barrier of like, because before not everyone was comfortable, like as comfortable talking to each other. And it wasn't like school before COVID. And I know that we were trying to progressively get back to it, but this has like really been monumental again. Sorry. And one of my friends said, "School is finally school again." I just wanted to quote her in that because I like it stuck with me, but that's all I have to share for this evening. Thank you for your time. Here.
I know. I'm gonna adjourn the meeting.
What more could be said?
Yeah. So great. Well, I'm so happy that you can feel that change. We can feel it in the room here tonight. And it really, I hope this is how it is from here on. Let's just enjoy it while we can and not worry about it. Skylar will graduate, so she won't have to come back. But thank you so much. That was such a great update. Do you guys have any questions for either Skylar or Delia? All right. Thank you guys very much. Where are you off to? Are you sporting tonight?
Not
or
today.
Okay. All right. What are we doing? Any spring sports?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm doing tennis. So
Tennis.
that's why I was so excited about the tennis girls having more people.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited for the season. It's gonna be, because I remember last year, because I only did dance last year, so I didn't really do outside sports. So when I joined tennis, it was just a full another experience of like friendship bonding and like the rides to the games. It's awesome.
Good. Well, good luck. Let us know if that impacts your ability to be here or your schedule, because I don't know about the tennis schedule. All right. So if you want to stick around, or if not, you can take off when you need to. All right. So now we are going to a QuashNet presentation. Mary Kate, do you want to introduce everybody?
Yes, I would love to. I actually feel very honored to do this. I'm so proud of this team. Mr. Williams and Mr. Giacomo are two advisors for student council. And I believe we have two passionate alum from our student council. So student council leads to great places. And one reason it does is because we have advisors that give students such an opportunity. So come on up, guys, and I'm going to let them take it from here, but I really appreciate the work that both of these educators do and the opportunities they afford all of us. So thank you all.
Right, thank you.
So thank you so much for letting this amazing group of passionate students, our student council, share what they have been working on so far this year.
They put a lot of effort into a lot of events for the Washington School this year, starting with our flow and working on the PBIS initiative and putting together events in the schools, beer weeks, and things of that nature as well. And they have a lot of other ideas moving forward. So it's 100% run by them. They put in the effort, and this is, I think you'll be impressed with how much they've accomplished so far this year. So I'm going to stop talking, so I don't talk too much, and I'm going to turn it over to our student council president, Esme Miley.
Hello, thank you for giving us our opportunity to present our accomplishments at the city council so far. So these are our current members of city council. Madison is our vice president. Liliana is our treasurer, and David Lux is our secretary.
Kira. This is a picture of the rest of the student council. Although we work together as a group for student council, we also break off into subcommittees. A few of our subcommittees are the student council charter, the PBIS committee, the spirit events committee, recycling/Trex committee, and the winter float committee. And our student council is here with us today to explain some of these committees. So now I will hand it over to Elena Ferrer, who will talk to you about the charter subcommittee.
Thank you. So the charter subcommittee of our student council is guidelines created for our student council. We have kind of made a constitution because we want to make sure that our student council realizes how important it is. We have a preamble, which is, we the students of Quashnet Elementary School, in order to promote student unity, form a safe learning space, provide opportunities of personal growth for all, and ensure that the voice of our peers is heard, do establish this constitution for the student council of Quashnet Elementary School. So, Lila. So I'm going to talk about the PBIS subcommittee. So things they do. They made a video for the Falcon 5 caring video, which kind of like taught students what to do and what not to do, but they also made it fun. We visited classrooms for the right choice ticket store, and we let the students like pick what they would like to earn for like once they did something to get enough tickets. We also helped create the You Got Caught forum, which helps like promote students to be good and recognize each other. Another thing we did is we participated in PBIS subcommittee with teachers, which kind of just like got a teacher's perspective, and it was really interesting to get both perspectives. And we also collaborated with Mr. Kapalka a lot, like to help plan things and just figure out what we're gonna do. And now it goes to Liam. No, Cassidy, sorry.
Hi, I'm Cassidy Holland, and I'm here to talk to you about Spirit Events Subcommittee. even though we do work as a group, spirit events included the separate subcommittee, but during times it included all of the student council. We mainly try to spread positive attitude throughout the school during spirit events. We did kindness ninja. Was one of the things we did was everyone as a group in the student council wrote positive statements on sticky notes, and we stuck them on every locker, just so if you come to school, you have like a good start to the day. So far we've had 2 spirit weeks. A spirit week is like the subcommittee and sometimes the whole spirit week, you'll plan entertaining or something you want to look forward to for that week. So far, I don't remember the exact ones, but for example, we've had a career day, we've had just like a teacher day, we've had a Falcon Friday, which is promoting the Falcons and the Quashnet at school. Kindness Week bingo, the student council, mainly the head board, gave a presentation on what kindness bingo was during our lunch for each grade. And kindness week bingo was, you had a paper and it had a bunch of different assignments for you to do. And you could get a bingo, or you could just go for a separate goal you made and you would get a reward for what you did. That's so far what we've achieved in the spirit event subcommittee.
Hi, my name is Kira Duvall, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the recycling / Trex subcommittee. So right now we are working on Trex, which is a plastic film company which takes recycled plastic films and turns them into something new, such as decks and furniture, which is really cool. And we created a video that will be soon shared with the Quashnet School, which tells students what they can and cannot put in the bins in a fun way. And we provided Trex magnets to all students participating in the challenge so they could take home to get a further explanation of what they can bring. And now I'm going to give it over to Liam to talk about the winter float.
Hello, my name is Liam Fidel, and I was in the winter float subcommittee. In my opinion, it was really fun to just be in the winter float committee. So basically what we did was we planned the winter float for the Christmas parade, and we manufactured a Christmas steak, and we won because we were the best celebrating diversity. We participated the props for the Christmas parade, so we used like a lot of props and they all worked out. So there's a picture. We also used a chorus to sing Jingle Bells while we were walking, and that's the float. I'm gonna hand it over to Emma now.
Hello, I am Emma Duvall, and I'm going to be presenting what else does the student council do. So we all had to make campaign videos and speech elections if we wanted to run for anything, such as like president and vice president. We had public speaking opportunities to classes and grade levels, like in the art room. We got to participate in morning announcements, which most of us do. And right now we just started a Ukrainian coin drive, and we partnered up with the National Elementary Honor Society to help the Russia and Ukrainian war. And now I'm going to be giving it to.
Hello, my name is Jesse Dean, and in the future, we're looking to do like school-wide events, like the whole school would participate in, and some social events. Then we also do a field day to like get people outside and have more fun, and that'll be in the social events. And more Spirit Week events, so people can like celebrate, have better morale and stuff like that. And then we have recycling and composting at lunch. Thank you for listening to the student council presentation.
Thank you.
As you can tell, they're a very, very busy group and they have a lot of plans, but I think the beauty of student council is the distributed leadership that occurs where those subgroups are really all taking that leadership. They drive this. And so thank you for making our school a better place.
So I have one question before first of all, we are going to have to take a photo. So prepare yourselves. And secondly, what does PBIS stand for? Okay. Positive behavior in school. So that's that committee, that subcommittee, that's what those topics were all about. I got it. And Ms. Giacomo, what do you teach a grade here? Just okay, you're a counselor. And David, you, Mr. I'm sorry, I can't. I always call you David. I apologize. You teach 5th grade? 6th grade. Okay. And are you guys all 6th graders? Okay, gotcha. Well, wonderful. Any questions from the committee? I don't think I could have given a presentation like that in 6th grade. So well done. Very well done. Now the picture. Committee members.
Student council come up a little bit, so school committee members might get right behind it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mrs. DeBoer is an epic cropper, so you don't have to worry too much about the table.
Doesn't seem like a long time ago. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, of course you are. I know. So anyway, what else? Did you get the shirts?
Yes.
Were you able to do that?
Yes. Awesome. I'm glad. You're ready for another round of pictures.
And then some of them were wearing the 3v3 tournament. I was like, oh my gosh. It's amazing. Yes, Skyla, I remember half of my homeroom, I came in because I was in environmental. class.
All right.
Everyone's wearing the shirts. And they're like, "Look, you're not wearing this." Oh my gosh. I know, like, I didn't have shirts thinking, please do that. And then I saw that it's 30 and I was like, yes, that's what I'm setting up. But I was like, can't get my shirt. So I was
Get
so
some
sad.
votes.
I love this.
So that I would say, okay, we can end the meeting now, but now we're coming on my next favorite part of my meetings, Roxanne, for the tribal update. So thank you, Roxanne. We need to get you a microphone.
Oh, here. And watching that, Brad, you all did awesome. You don't feel like you did school. You're always welcome. I'm sure you'll come.
I think they want that pizza.
Oh.
Well, I'm gonna go down.
Yeah, we should start having pizza at school committee meetings. That's a good idea.
Winnie Suck, Natasha Roxanne Mills Brown, Education Director for the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe. And I think you got the handout, did you?
Yep.
I'm just going to go through a few of the items on here that stand out. So Kitty and Joan Muller from Webner are in the throes of planning for a STEM workshop. That workshop is for educators. It's only 20 educators, and that will take place June 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's a collaborative between the tribe, Walk White Bay, National Estuarine Reserve, Bridgewater State, and other scientific oceanic institutions. NOAA, I think, being one. The first 2 days are at Webner and the last days at the Tribal Community and Government Center. There'll be a clam boil for participants. The wampum belt will be on display, and you can share a few moments with Tribal Elder and Chief Earl Mills Sr. Again, the registration is limited to 20 educators. Not quite sure when that registration will open, but you'll all be notified. The Massachusetts Association of School Committees, Division 10, will host a presentation by the Education Department on the history of Indian education. And that will be just a brief overview because I think the presentation's for about an hour and 15 minutes, which can't nearly cover the history of education for natives. That presentation is scheduled for March 30th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And the opportunity was initiated through Nicole's role earlier in the fall. And we're really looking forward to this. It's a challenge for us as a education department. It helps build our capacity to organize, prepare, and plan, and actually have some inventory that we'll be able to use in the future. So looking forward to this. Some of the Native youth opportunities is our POH camp for middle school age children. Those students entering 5th grade through 8th grade are invited to participate. It's a collaboration between culture keepers and tribal ecological knowledge and scientists, mainly from Woods Hole Oceanographic, NOAA, USGS, and other scientific entities. And that's been in place for over a decade, a great number of years. And we hope to be able to really impact the science achievement of our Native kids and beginning in middle school toward high school. So the State Tribal Education Partnership Agreement was signed by Falmouth this week. And in the morning, I'll go ahead and forward that to Patty and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We will embark on the work with Falmouth much in the same manner we did with Mashpee. So we may be leaning on you guys a little bit to kind of help support our movement forward as we kind of go into waters a little bit unknown. So we appreciate the partnership and we look only to get better and to be more effective for that mutual benefit. The Education Department is proposing to seek the approval of our tribal council to contract with an outfit called Face-to-Face Integrated Technologies. And they're going to assist us in creating a database, and we will help build that database by identifying that information that we need to have to be able to report to entities such as our partners, to our tribal council, for grant writing, for reporting. Which is a lot of data that we miss day to day. We're so busy sometimes in the grind of doing the work that we fail to capture. We actually don't really have a good mechanism to capture the data and get those anecdotal pieces of information as well. So we're looking forward to that because we want to get better, again, build our own capacity to analyze that data and respond to it in a meaningful manner. We just completed, I think last week, the interview of 4 individuals for the program manager position for the new ARP grant. We expect to make a determination, I was hoping this week, looks like maybe next week. The grant was awarded November 29th, and I think I kind of addressed that at the last meeting. We expect to jump right in with that individual as the education staff has kind of picked up some of the slack since November.
Remind me what that stands for.
That's the American Rescue Plan.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
American Indian Resilience in Education.
Thank you.
And that's exactly what we still call it. We haven't entitled it. Let's see here. The Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Child Care Center. The Education Department presented to the tribal body at the March 13th Sunday community meeting, which takes place on the second Sunday of each month and has for decades and decades. So Rick Colavecchio, the architect for Studio Jade, projected a detailed look at the proposed facility and exhibited various photos of the proposed buildings, along with the materials and colors to be used in the construction at 186 Meeting House Road. Ernie Virgilio is the project manager and the appointed tribal building inspector for that project. Eileen Miranda is the child care program manager, and I provided background information and answered questions of the attendees. The meeting was held in person and via Zoom. We expect to have a request for bids in about 4 weeks, which is soon. So before you know it, we're going to have a standing facility. It's beautiful. We had our first curriculum meeting today, actually, for the daycare center. And we have quite a few educators in our tribe and in our department and through WLRP that have early childhood certifications of varying levels. And so today was our first meeting. It's pretty exciting. We look to move forward to, at the end of this, make a selection of curriculum, looking at the outcome of our 6-week to 5-year-olds in this daycare center. And we expect that when they leave our daycare center, they will have all of the criteria for preschool or kindergarten and be very well versed in their own culture and, you know, just feel really good about themselves. Let's see. And lastly, we have a lot of resources, and it just occurred. We've had a lot of deaths in our tribe, and many of the deaths are of those persons that were leaders that participated in local and national events over the course of decades. And we're able to provide content or presentations on contemporary events, many of which our own people participated in with tribes across the country. So some of those things just off the top are, we had a chapter of the American Indian Movement in Boston, and many of us were members of that during those times. Many of us, or a few of us, attended the Trail of Broken Treaties, which was the takeover of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And why was that? And then the Longest Walk, which was kind of a takeoff on the Long Walk, the trek that the tribes made from the east to the west. And so I'm just announcing that for current events, and all of us are not just historical, that we still live and we still participate and we still fight for justice, if you will. And the last piece here is we just established a Native Education Council of Massachusetts. We began organizing in January of 2022, mainly to engage with the hierarchy of the Massachusetts public education system. And we're thinking we might do it through a legislative process to more effectively address the frameworks and educating the educators. So members of the Massachusetts tribes are participating, the education department and other interested individuals. Jim Peters from the Commission on Indian Affairs and Latifa Phillips, who is an educator from Tohoto Onum. She works, I think, in Framingham. And she has been the director of offices of Indian education in both New Mexico and Washington State in the past. So we have a great team. We're looking forward. I think our next step is to engage some of our representatives so that we can really try to make some headway and inroads from the top, rather than right now, it feels like we're working in small pockets, and it's meaningful, but we could be doing it in a more broader and deeper level. So I just want to say Katabachanamu, and I really enjoyed the presentations from the students and the student council.
Thanks, Roxanne. Hang on 1 second, because I had a couple of questions, but I don't know if anybody else does. Kathy, do you have any off the top?
Off the top, no.
I mostly was curious about the childcare center, and so in the past, we've had presentations from the folks at the WICU and what was a preschool, not run by the tribe, but through the WLRP, I believe. So is that, does this replace that, or is it?
No, this is a child care center, and this is actually funded through the grant that we already received through Family and Child Services, HHS.
Okay. So, and what's the timing for the opening?
Oh, if construction can begin in another 6 weeks or so, I would say possibly late fall,
Also
early
this calendar
winter.
year.
Yeah,
Wow, that's great.
yeah.
That's very exciting. Congratulations.
It is. It's a beautiful building, and I will at some point share some of that information with you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. As you were talking about some of the historical connections, in terms of justice considerations and things that I think, students like Skylar are learning about in our classes right now. I'm just wondering, I know your capacity is an issue, but I just was wondering if we could maybe connect folks in our history department or some of our teachers to those opportunities, so that maybe, they could bring in an individual to have a conversation with a class or something like that.
Oh,
Is that what you're
definitely.
kind of thinking about?
Yeah, definitely. And we're already working with Megan McCauley on the Native American history course.
Right.
And that's just, that's a beginning step, and certainly we can help to grow that and broaden it. But certainly, pardon?
They meet once a week.
Yes,
so
yeah,
Once a week for an hour.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Darius and others.
Darius would teach the class, part of the class.
Yeah, they've been modeling the teaching and following up with Megan and just being that resource.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the Preserve Our Homelands camp because I've been involved in that over the years as a scientist. But what's I find interesting about that is where you're incorporating tribal knowledge and culture into all these different science topics. And I guess that's what I was thinking about, is that bringing in a tribal perspective to a justice conversation in a history class, or bringing in a tribal perspective to a science class talking about water quality or, species that are important, to your culture. So I was thinking that's kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah.
More sort of sprinkled throughout everything, not just a Native American history class.
Right, exactly. And that is some of the work that we would like to see happen, where it's a little more seamless and integrated rather than separate. But certainly we're more, and we have lots of tribal even professionals. We have a Casey with his PhD in climate. That always astounds me, but
Yeah.
I mean, we have lots of resources and human resources to meet the needs requested.
Well, I think when you're ready, I think there are a lot of folks in Mashpee who would avail themselves of that opportunity. So,
Okay,
yeah.
we look forward. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Roxanne. All right. God, I love this agenda tonight. Everything, every next topic is like, I'm excited about. Deb, come on up. Deb Troyanis, to talk about the MMHS trip to Europe, long awaited, much anticipated.
Yes. Hi, everybody. So I'm Deb Triana, so if you don't know who I am, and the leader of the trip to Europe. We're going to be going to Paris, Venice, Florence, and Rome over April vacation. And we have 31 days until the trip departure, and we have 31 travelers going on the trip. I put in the packet for you the list of the student names and the list of the 5 chaperones. Those chaperones are, along with myself, my husband Andrew, who's the music teacher, and Aphrodite Purdy, Celeste Reynolds, and Dan Later are going on the trip with us, all very experienced and excellent teacher chaperones. So I feel really good about that. We are booked with American Airlines and Air France. We'll be flying overnight to Paris and stay there for 2 days. We'll then fly to Venice and then spend a few days there, take a coach bus to Florence, stopping in Assisi, and then end up in Rome and then fly home. So it's a busy schedule, but a really exciting one. We're going to be seeing so many great things. I did attach the itinerary for you if you want to see it more in detail, but some of the highlights are that in France, we'll go to the Louvre. We're going to be taking a boat ride down the Seine River through the middle of Paris. We'll see the Eiffel Tower, the Notre Dame. We'll be having a crepe dinner in the Latin Quarter the first night. And in Florence, we'll be going to the Accademia Museum to see the David. And we'll of course see the Colosseum and the Vatican and the Sistine Chapel. So those are just a few of the little highlights. All the student travelers have officially paid in full for their trips now, and they're anticipating the trip with a lot of excitement and joy. We held a fundraiser to help defray some of the costs, and we had monthly meetings every month every month, and we did all kinds of things to prepare them for the trip, like teaching them how to pack for 9 days with one carry-on bag.
Oh, is that recorded? I would love to know how to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the chaperones who had the hardest time with that. But also how to travel safely, being alert, what to expect at the airport and on the plane, handling money, how to be a good travel companion and have a good attitude and being flexible, and maintaining a positive attitude on the trip. They've been brushing up on a few handy Italian words and learning how to say thank you and where's the bathroom and those sort of important phrases they need to know. But we've had a lot of fun at the meetings, and it's been a great bonding time for the group before we even leave. So we're ready to go and be together. We're planning on putting a lot of the trip on social media so you can follow us as the trip goes on, and we'll post photos and updates each day where we've been traveling and so forth. And it's true, after waiting 2 long years, we've seen COVID change from the pandemic to the endemic. We originally started out with 53 people planning to go on the trip, but then some of those seniors graduated, so we had to do it without them. But it was a long wait, and now we're just so happy that spring is here, and the masks are becoming optional there as well, but not on the plane. On the plane, we still have to wear them, of course. And there's still COVID procedures in place right now for us to have COVID tests before we go, and when we're there, we have to take it before we come back. And so they're responsible to get their own tests here before we leave, 48 hours before we leave. But when we're there, the company gives us a doctor who comes to the hotel and does the COVID test for everybody right there. And then they get the results in 15 minutes, and then it's all certified and ready for us to go. So that's how that would work. Let's see. I hate bringing this part up after just getting through the pandemic, but in case you're worried about the activity in Ukraine, the U.S. Department of State of course, doesn't support travel to Ukraine or Russia, but they have not made recommendations for Americans to leave or defer travel in any other countries in the region. And Explorica believes travel to our destinations in Europe can safely continue at this time. And all their travel groups, as well as all the other student tour groups and even other adult tour groups and so forth, Rick Steves and EF Tours and everybody, they're all still on right now. So that's where, but they're constantly monitoring the security situation and their reports, and they'll make recommendations accordingly, but it's deemed safe to travel to Europe at this time. On the Monday before we leave, we're planning to do a final meeting with the parents and the student travelers and chaperones, and to go over the final details. And to make it fun, we're making it a bon voyage party with a pasta dinner, having some Italian food and Italian desserts. And it'll be in the cafeteria at the Mashpee High School. So you're all invited if you would like to attend.
That's gonna be hard to pass up.
Everyone off.
What day, what night is that again?
It's Monday night, the 11th at 6. And let's see. In the back of the handout sheet, I did give you the names of the hotels and the airlines and the details of the trip. I think that's everything you need. We still have to have the proof of vaccination, and all of the students have already been vaccinated and are all set in order to even go on the trip. I think that's about everything, except I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity again, for letting us go, and on behalf of all the students whose lives will be enhanced forever by this trip. And I'm happy to come back and report the month after we return to share some pictures and show you how it all went. And they're already planning, hoping to make this an annual event, and the students have already asked to go to Ireland, Grand Canyon, the Galapagos is a tour that's offered as well, Galapagos and Machu Picchu, and Iceland and Greece are the ones they're thinking about now. So I promise we'll do this one first, and then we'll come back and ask you. But I just want to let you know, we're hoping to make it an annual thing. So that's everything. Anybody have any questions for me?
Go ahead, Don.
I do have one question.
Yes.
And I don't know what happens if one of the kids or one of the chaperones tests positive while they're overseas. What
Yes.
happens?
Well, luckily now the quarantine time isn't 10 days anymore, it's 5, but and hopefully by then it might even shorten by April, but with the plan is that one chaperone would stay with the student until the quarantine is over, not in the same room. The Explorica provides the hotel rooms for them to stay for the quarantine, and they will make the arrangements to change their flights back.
Okay, good. Hopefully that won't be the
Right,
case.
Anybody else have a question?
Miss T, will there be tiramisu at the
There
Bon
will
Voyage
be,
party?
actually.
Wherever there's tiramisu, there's me.
There you go. Good.
Catch you
You
there.
come and join us. All right, thank you.
Deb, one
Yes.
quick question. So I don't know, there seems to be a mistake on the chaperones. I don't see Miss Mann's name up there. What's that all about?
I would have had to leave Eve at home.
Oh,
I wanted her to come. She was invited. We
that
did
must have
invite
been, it must have been a tough split in the Mann household. Yeah. Deb, this is great. I mean, really thorough, and I think I've told you a couple of times how excited I am that you're doing this and that you and Andy, really stuck with this. And I think it's really an amazing opportunity for our students, and I'd love to see it continued. I'm curious, I appreciate the list of students, but I don't know all of them. I'm just curious what the grade spread was.
They're
in terms-
juniors and seniors.
All juniors
All
and seniors.
We-
Okay,
We did open it up to sophomores, but it just worked out that it's juniors and seniors.
gotcha. Okay, that's great. Kathy, do you have any questions?
I'm excited, like Nicole, to see this. I know back in high school eons ago, that was the highlight of my senior year was the trip to France. So
That's
I
great.
think everyone's gonna hopefully enjoy and
That's
take
what
it
I hear
all
a
in.
lot. I hear
Yeah.
that from a lot of people. It's a fond memory from them from high school. So that's what
Definitely.
we want to make for our
Life
Mashpee
change.
kids.
Exactly. So I'm excited and I can't wait to hear how it goes.
Yes,
great.
and how are we gonna follow this on Instagram? Or is it gonna
We'll
be on
be-
Mashpee Public Schools, or is it gonna be on something else?
Probably going to give it to Consuelo and then have her tweet it out.
Got
that sort of thing. We'll-
I steal everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll give it to our communications director. over here.
Yes. We'll send a direct line, of course.
Awesome. Well, have fun.
Thank you.
Bon
so much.
Yeah, bon voyage. Yeah, I'm gonna see you on the 11th. I don't think, I'm like Skyla. I can't pass up tiramisu.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now back to the boring rigor of school committee meetings. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, February 9th. I'll take a motion or edits, anything.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for February 9th, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Don, do you, okay, well, do you want to do them separately or together? There's two sets. Okay. All right, motion for the February 9th minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Kathy seconds. Any discussion? All right, Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Don?
Yes,
I vote yes. Kathy?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, I should have you and me, but whatever.
make a motion that we approve the minutes for the meeting for February 18th, 2022.
All right, Don made the motion. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion? Let's not have any more Friday afternoon meetings. If we can help it. Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Don,
Yes,
Kathy,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well, so that's approved. Okay. Stacy, Nurse Stacy's in the house. All right.
And the dashboard that you have at your seat, not the one in the packet, is the most up-to-date version.
Thank you. Good evening. So as you see on the dashboard, our February Health Office information is on there. And as Mrs. DeBoer just shared, the numbers are up to date as of 4:30 today. So pretty self-explanatory. The only real shift is the number of COVID tests because they're not PCR tests and testing is not required. It doesn't get reported to the state. So antigen tests, so our numbers look a little lower. I know there's more testing going on, but just the reporting factor doesn't capture that. But any questions on what you see on that report tonight?
So we almost made it through March, huh?
Almost, but it's better.
Yeah.
It's a single digit, so that's
Yeah.
a nice thing to see. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, no, I don't have any questions.
Anybody else?
it's just amazing to me, the number of health office visits for February, even though COVID is down. And we had a week off, right? Still was an all-time high for the.
Correct. So usually February is our biggest month with the GI vomiting. Sorry, too much information. But the illness visits that we see, it's just a busy month. It's the way it rolls. And we're continuing to roll that way.
And even with the masks during the whole month of February. it
Correct.
Didn't make a difference.
Well, it did. It was down from last year if you look at last year's, but it's still
They're
up.
still high.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Stay out of the health office in February. That's the take home on that one. Yeah.
Anybody else? Good. Okay. So our pool testing. So as you see, I made a little note that our pools are doing 25 a week now because given the number of PCR tests for the labs are down, the labs aren't as behind as they were. So we're able to do larger pools, which just makes testing day go faster, processing go faster, all of that. So If you look at our numbers, we're still testing the same number of people, but the reason for pools is because they're larger pools now. So we can go up to 10, and they're asking us to try to stay at 5. So it's a little faster, and the courier who comes on Tuesday likes that too. So that was all good. We did have 2 positive pools this week, which, given it's exactly 2 weeks after vacation, is anticipated and not anything that is alarmingly concerned, and pretty consistent with what we're seeing around the state as of today.
So the pool testing will continue till when?
So Desi had a call with CIC, who's the company that offers the testing program. And as of yesterday, they are still anticipating that it will be through June at this time. And they are advising us to continue to do the home testing program through June. So we have planned and appropriated home tests. We're trying to do home test distribution monthly to impact the number of tests and interruptions for teachers, class, having it organized. So we have a really nice system with that too. So distribution for student tests will be next Wednesday, and we'll get them through April, I believe, 8th. And then there'll be an April distribution, May and June, and the same for staff. So that's going really well also. And people are still eligible and able to participate and sign up. So feel free.
We still have about 300 to 400 participating.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think it's 309 for the full. Again, people are paused.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's a rotating Google sheet that does that math for me. So
Just a quick question. So the positive tests in February, do you recall offhand if those were before or after the break?
So this week we have had 6 students and 1 staff. Six students and 1 staff. Correct, Mrs. DeBoer? 6 students and 1 staff.
Definitely
this
1
week.
staff and.
I
yeah,
believe
because
for
I think-
6.
Yeah, the others were last week.
But we didn't see a spike after the break.
So it's 2 weeks, right? So it's 2 weeks. So this, what we're seeing this week is what we anticipated.
Okay. That's not bad.
And that is, speaking with the Board of Health today, town-wise, they're seeing the same little
A little tiny
bump
bit.
up, but not alarming at this point. So I'm
Okay.
not going to ruin anybody's day today.
Thank you.
And then vaccinations are up a little bit. So we had pretty much every grade level or age group, 37 new vaccinations since I spoke with you last. So, people are still doing that and are rolling or becoming current with 2 doses. So that is good. We're at a 41% vaccination student rate for, again, pre-K through grade 12. So they're under 5 doesn't really count. So I guess I don't know, I really want to take them out because we are seeing more and more of those grade levels that are eligible vaccinated. So it's getting there. Any other questions for me? Nope.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Nice to
Thank
see you all.
Yeah.
Have a great evening.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay. Ms. Moore.
Okay, so in the effort, in an attempt to maybe get us a little bit more back on track, you have the enrollment sheet in the packet. Does anyone have any questions on that?
I guess the only thing I was curious about was how many homeschoolers we got back. Have we gotten?
Yes,
some back?
so we went, it's an interesting data point. On our February report, we had 29 homeschooled students, and now we have 34. But the increase, so 2 students reached age 6, when if you're going to homeschool your child, you have to let us know. So those 2 are new in the mix. And then a couple of the students that chose to go back to a homeschool setup due to the masking situation and health issues at their home. And we had a couple of kids return, because we were mask optional.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. You have the personnel sheet in there, page 9. If you have any questions on that.
Oh, Talia's going to be the new Indian Ed.
She is our grant coordinator for
Nice.
the balance of this year. And yes, I'm super
Great.
happy about that. And in terms of administrator reports, we have our administrators here. I don't know if you want to request that each of them share something or if you want to let that go to the next month. I know we did hear quite a bit about MMHS, so that would probably protect Mr. Tarski's part. And we had a little presentation from Quashnet, so that's good too. So I don't know, it's your
Do we want
call.
the youngest child, does the youngest child want an opportunity to speak? So you don't feel left out?
Okay, so we had our first PTO meeting that was face-to-face. That was super exciting. We had a really good turnout. They had their older children babysit for the younger ones, so that was noisy, but fun. And so they funded a first grade project and they allocated funds for a STEM day at KCC that's coming up on April 29th. And then we started planning for our biggest fundraiser, the dance off. And we're working with the Quashnet School to plan a kickball game sometime in June. So our board is moving on. So if you know anybody that has little guys and wants to join, we would love to have them. On March 2nd, 15 Mashpee High School English Honors Society students read to every KCC classroom. Very thankful to Mrs. Smith, our librarian, Anne Marie Finn, the National English Honor Society advisor, and the kids. The kids were great. They made shirts. I don't know who made them, but they all had the same shirts on.
We made those at the hashtag We Are Mashpee.
Oh, they were lovely. And they were adorable. The kids are absolutely adorable. They came in and they always go, Mr. Randy, like Mr. Randy, and the cafeteria smells the same. I don't know what that means. So that was a great time. Pre-K and K registration is in full swing. We don't have our numbers yet because we're getting daily kind of registrations and the girls are keeping up. Thanks to them, Jen Smith and Kendra Friel, for their hard work. They are really putting on a good show there. We too are celebrating Women in History Month. I think all of us are, but we summarize ours a little bit more because, you know, our kids are 5. And so, but we talk about an important woman, a woman who made contributions every morning. It's also Music in Our Schools Month. So our music teacher has sent out a Google form to the staff and asking them what concerts they've seen and who their favorite band is. And so I knew when it was Rebecca Davis because it was all kind of hip hoppy alternative. But then somebody the other day, it was Baroque music, and I still don't know who that is because she wasn't here. So I will let you know because that's interesting. So that's been a lot of fun for the kids. And finally, we're all doing Rock Your Socks on March 21st. So we'll be wearing really cool socks on that day to celebrate. And it's World Down Syndrome Day, I believe.
Yeah.
So we'll be celebrating that as well. So that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Deb.
Just to add, I believe some of the students at the Coombs School are decorating the whatever you call those things that you
little
put on a
sleeves.
Starbucks coffee, or the sleeves
Yeah.
for Starbucks. The Starbucks sent them the sleeves over for the kids to decorate, and then they went back to be put on coffees that are ordered. So I thought that was a really cool idea. It came from a parent, yes.
Yeah.
So then it got spread out, yes,
Oh, cute.
to brighten up. Yes, that was cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very quickly, you have the Mashpee Middle High School athletic program chart, and I think Skylar did a great job of highlighting some things. I do want to give a shout out to Jasmine Silva, the girls basketball coach. She is new this year, and she really is a phenomenal coach who knows the game, but also just a really unique person who is very connected to the girls. And I think we didn't give a shout out yet to Ava Kelly from our gymnastics team. She qualified for regionals for New England in the all-around event, and she's the first gymnast in our program history to achieve this. And our hockey team also made it into the tournaments. Then you also have the report of our outreach coordinator. Oops. Don't lose that. Just quickly, I wanted to say one of the highlights on hers is that the Mashpee Chamber does their Mashpee magazine annually, and that the theme, they always have a theme, and it's made in Mashpee. So my article is all focused on what I think is the best product made in Mashpee, which is our graduates. So that is the theme, but a lot of our student work will be featured throughout that magazine this year. And also that the Mashpee Commons will be displaying seniors on flags throughout the Commons this year versus the banner that they did in the past. So that will be good. Lots of volunteer opportunities. We're getting a lot of back to being in person. I just, under recognitions and acknowledgements, it's important to me to make sure we recognize our 7th graders. The National History Day South Shore Regional Competition was held the weekend of March 5th. And 4 of our student projects placed, and all of these projects will be moving on to the state level competition in April. Yes, there's no connection here to this group. First place junior group website goes to James Benners and Oliver Jocelyn. Their topic was the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. First place in the junior individual website is Quinlan Donovan. Her topic is child labor, how movements changed history. Second place junior group for documentary went to Brendan Diaz da Costa and Lillian Lewis. The energy crisis of 1973 was their topic. And third place junior group documentary went to Carmen Bartlett, Scarlett Ellis, and Owen Zeal, and their topic was Pearl Harbor. So we're very, very happy to celebrate with those students. I also want to acknowledge that we have a Quashnet school teacher, Miss Alexandra Cohane, who successfully defended her dissertation. So she is now Dr. Cohane, and she will be walking, I think in May or June. She said that's when it will be real to her, but it is real now. So we're very proud of all that hard work that Miss Cohane put into that. And then I just, a quick shout out to Jonah Erdman and Hunter Toby, who did a 2-day professional development they did a legacy training because they're seniors and they are sort of our go-to AV, everything auditorium. Any speaker that comes in, they handle everything. And I was like, well, what's going to happen when you two leave? So for Jonah's senior project, he put together a program, and thank you to Miss Brooks, who sort of supervised the 2 days, but students applied, they were selected, they got permission to be out of classes for 2 days, but there's a very long email that Mrs. Brooks sent that really acknowledges how well planned, and she's been involved with a lot of professional development. She's not really ever seen anything like that with some of her contemporaries, and these were 2 seniors. And so I'm just very proud of them, and that we have someone who's going to carry on when they're gone. Lastly, the 8th graders, there were 25 selected. We were randomly selected to participate in the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP test, which is really not necessarily something to celebrate. We don't get a lot of logistics to that, but on March 9th, there were students who were selected to take the reading one. That was 2 hours. And then there were another group of very lucky students selected to do a 2-hour math exam. So we did our part to support the federal collection of data.
I just asked the lady, I'm like, were you one of them?
Yeah.
They did not choose the students. They gave us.
Yeah, they took our database and they just randomly picked.
Oh.
And a lot of meetings that had to take place before. Anyway, it's done. And we're very grateful to the students. Yeah, Miss Melby was the primary coordinator there. So progress update on the MMHS block scheduling is Dr. Hanscom from her committee or the committee.
Yeah. So I think last month, I talked about where we were at with the committee, and let's see.
Here.
I'm just going, no. Oh, no, I think it's gonna work now. There it is. So I don't know if we've met. We met on the 15th of February, and I don't remember when our last committee meeting was, but we looked at, so we looked at the 3 options that are available to consider within the MOA and did pros and cons of all of them. Our next meeting is next week, and what we're doing is we've compiled all that information. We're looking at the feedback from the parent family opinion survey, because there were 2 questions for families related to the schedule options. And then we are looking at all 3 options and coming up with potential solutions to the cons, because there were cons on all of them. So either way, we're coming up with we're doing one of them. So what are some of the options we can look at as mitigation for whatever we end up choosing or recommending? And then finally, we'll do our first pass blind anonymous dipsticking vote at the end of the session, so we can see how far apart we are in terms of the committee, the will of the committee. So that's next. And again, thank you to the volunteers. Ms. Trianos is on that committee, along with someone from almost every single department. Math is not represented anymore, but everyone had an opportunity to be represented and heard. So that's where we're at.
Great. We still on track for a May recommendation to the committee? Okay.
Okay, so continuing on the update on the parent guardian survey for this year. So we sent them out on February 28th, which was a Monday. We sent a reminder out on the following Monday, which might have been the 7th of March, I think. And each time we would weed out, who had already responded. So, and then we said it was closing on the 11th. I will say I sent another reminder on the weekend, but it's pretty much whatever flows in at this point. However, I will say that the Casey Coombs School had 42.7% participation, and that's based on a survey being submitted for each of the students. We will be sorting by family as well. Quashnet School is 35.9% participation, and MMHS is 30.8% participation. And so I nagged and I pleaded to try to reach our past years where we generally had 43%. We didn't quite make it. And there are 983 families in the district. But moving forward, not right now, but down the road, we will give a very detailed sort of share out of the information we collected. And then next up is the stadium project. So the funding through CPC and the funding through CIP has been approved and recommended for voters by both the select board and also the Town of Mashpee Finance Committee. So the warrant items are on, the articles are on the warrant for the special town meeting, which means that if they are approved and they don't need to be, they just need a simple majority, they would be able to start that project as early as possible. We did, I think, and Ashley, you can support this, but we did go to the bid opening. I don't know if there was 9, I forget. So they read those and now they're going through detail to make sure they have all of the components. And I don't know when they're deciding on. Okay. So the question will be, once the vendor is known, if they are able to start, the plan right now is to start basically 1 or 2 days after graduation because the tent would be on the field. If they have the capacity to start earlier, we could potentially shift the graduation to the back area on another section of outside of at the school. But we don't know yet. So it's because I would love to give them as much lead time as they could so that we could hit a target of being done in the fall without any kind of overlap into that season. So yeah, that is where we're at with that. And the next,
Do you still want an outdoor graduation, Skylar?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want it on the football field or does it matter which field?
What's the other?
I don't know. We'd have to find the prettiest grass at the time.
Yeah, the backside,
Like baseball, side,
somewhere back there.
where the fireworks or somewhere back there.
We'd still have all the nice things.
Yeah, I always get curious because in the last 2 years when we've done graduation, it's very vertical and it's the stage and then it's all the parents behind it. How come we don't do where the parents sit in the bleachers and then the kids are more spread out and the stage is between the kids and the bleachers?
Well, that is an option, I think, because we don't have shade over our bleachers. That
We
tends
can't
to
put a
not be
tent on the
super
field.
pleasant for spectators.
So we're thinking about grandma and grandpa's perhaps being very hot, and the tent allows them to not feel.
And some non-grandmas and grandpas.
Yes, but we could definitely involve the senior class with sort of a formatting, maybe there is a different setup that you'd like to use. So we just need to, plan for the tent sooner than later because those are not easy to come by a week or 2 ahead of time.
We are, Dr. Hanscom and I are the pro outside graduation.
Yeah.
We're leading that charge.
I went to 3 or 4 of them when they were in the gym and then I went to the 2021 outside. And I don't know, they were just both different.
Yeah. So anyway, if the point is that if we can not use the football stadium, we could potentially start the turf project earlier, which allows us to have it in place for the start of the school year in the fall. So we have to think about where else we could do graduation, either indoors or at another location outside.
Yes. And then if there's no other questions on that, the next item is bulleted, and it's simply that I recommend that we continue to participate in the school choice program. You only need to vote if you as a committee decide you want to leave the program. I'm not sure that any of you do feel that way, so my recommendation is that we stay in. And there is no asterisk, so no vote is required. Okay. And then you have an upcoming events sheet. You can read it yourself. I do want to highlight, though, that the partnership meeting between the schools and the tribe was rescheduled from this week to the 22nd, which is next Tuesday at 4:15 in this library. So for any of you who would like to come, although there can't be more than 2 of you, you're welcome. Any other questions on my very rushed section?
So that's not on here.
It's on a Tuesday. No, it's not on there.
So that's the
22nd.
15th.
No.
No, sorry, then the next week. Okay.
Yes.
And I will be there.
Oh,
Okay, perfect.
Somebody else needs to be there, that's fine, but I do have on my calendar.
okay.
All right, so I think if you don't have any questions related to my section, next up would be our Director of Finance.
Great. And this is just the current year stuff we're talking about now. Okay.
It's just the normal reports from the last meeting updated. I don't have anything to note in them that has happened in the last month, but do you have any questions?
We have plans to spend down these gate receipts. I thought we had passed something that said our revolving account balances couldn't exceed a certain amount.
No, I think we went over this last year. We don't have anything that says that.
Okay, so my question is, do we have a plan to spend down is that, I see the AD in the back, but do we, so the balance is accumulated because we haven't been because of COVID and stuff, but don't we usually use those for like refs, coach, like what?
So we look on big ticket items, anything that we have goals, things that are several $1,000. We have items that actually probably going to purchase at the end of this year, go through revolving, or any overruns, cost overruns that with the transportation officials and such, any overruns budget goes through revolving. We also all of our hockey dues go through revolving. So hockey's taken for hockey co-op and so it goes directly through.
Okay.
That's a couple $1,000 right there. It goes down quickly. So there is a chunk that goes down. It has added up over the years.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Right, they're very much one-time items where we're not necessarily in the budget for that year.
Right, okay.
The school choice is 2 months payments received, correct?
Yes, it's through January.
But the 125 represents.
Yes.
2 months.
Yes.
Right?
Just to point out related to, because my mind started to think about the revolving account, just so everyone knows that the CIP committee did approve a project we have for the Mashpee Middle High School gymnasium that includes some repairs to the floor, but new technology in terms of our scoreboards, which are original to the building. So I know that one was dysfunctional during basketball and there was questions about why we wouldn't fix it, but we knew that we have that funding that's going to start this summer with that project. So we weren't putting any additional money into that one scoreboard.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you want to bring to the committee's attention in regard to the current budget to actual?
No. I'll be doing a hard close in March to see where we stand. So at the April meeting, you'll have an even more accurate budget to actual. for the end of the year for the finals quarter.
Great, thank you. COVID funding, you have on here as well?
Nothing to note from last month.
Okay. That's page 19 of the packet for the members. Okay, so I think if there aren't any questions, Brian, Don, you guys are okay? Okay, so moving on to new business. Ooh, closing in, we're only 10 minutes behind now. Amanda, we moved you up to the top, so we're gonna have you come up first. I hear
Thank
you've
you
been
for
busy.
waiting. Thank you for waiting.
Oh, no problem. Hi, I'm Amanda Howe. I'm from Mashpee High School. I teach technology and engineering and robotics. And first, I'd like to start by saying thank you to the school committee, Mashpee Public Schools, our administration, on behalf of myself and the Mashpee Robotics team for your continual support of this team. And here tonight, I'm actually going to summarize and request that you give an opportunity of a lifetime for our 6 students at Mashpee Middle High School to attend the World VEX Robotics competition in Dallas, Texas on May 4th through 8th. This is an opportunity unlike anything you've ever heard of. There will be 800 robotics teams from around the world competing, and 2 teams from Mashpee have the opportunity to attend. After 4 years of hard work, undying and relentless time and hours put into robots that you cannot imagine, these teams have earned their right to go. Our junior boys team, including Sean Ware, Ethan Liu, Camden Perry, and Sam Johnson, qualified at the VEX Southern New England Regionals competition 2 weeks ago. That competition had 80 teams from Southern New England, from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. And out of the 80 teams that went, only 26 qualified to go to Worlds. We are the only team on Cape Cod that has qualified to go to Worlds. And we are one of maybe 12 teams in Massachusetts, to put it in perspective. Our junior girls team is waiting and hoping and crossing their fingers that they get their bid. They include Jamie Hughes and Katrina Mahan. The girls worked relentlessly this year and barely missed their chance to go to Worlds. In order for the team to go to Worlds, there's a registration cost of $1,200 per team for a total of $2,400. This is an opportunity for them to actually go and compete. This does not include the financial costs for their family and them to attend this tournament. I would also be attending, and I would be supervising during the day at the competition at the conference center, which would be on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We would have to fly out from Boston Logan Airport on Wednesday in order to make sure that we were there with the robots in hand, ready to compete on Thursday afternoon. We would then fly back on Sunday to return to school on Monday. We're really looking for you guys to give approval for them to attend an out of school field trip, out of state field trip. It also means that supervision will be at night and, overnight be done by their parents and guardians in their hotels. Transportation in Dallas will take place by their parents and guardians. I will only be supervising during the day. As this is the first time that Mashpee has made it to Worlds, we as the administrative team, myself, Mr. Looney from the CT department, Mr. Tarski, our principal, have really worked to try to get this to happen. It's a quick turnaround. I want you to understand, we compete all year long and we find out literally 2 months in advance that we get to go to Worlds. We're hoping that this year, if you allow us to go, we can make a plan moving forward, secure funds. We've received grants and we've received a $2,000 sponsorship from the LRIG Robotics Institute here in New England. But we have a plan moving forward after we just get this initial opportunity to go, so that it will be more organized moving forward.
Do you want to talk about how you have to get the robots there?
Okay, so actually the junior boys team, and I'll have them come up, we do have support here. Sean's here, Ethan, Camden, their parents, Speedy and Laura. Katrina Mahan is here and her mom, Mrs. Mahan. We have an amazing support system with the parents and guardians. They attend all of the tournaments, but this is a robot that the boys built. In order for this to get to the tournament, we will either have to ship it in a metal case that has styrofoam and keeps it packed so that nothing will break. We will also have to ship tools in case there's things that break just even during competition, they may have to fix and repair. That's one possibility of shipping. So we're looking at shipping costs between $500 and $1,000. If we don't ship, then yours truly will be checking them as checked baggage in flight cases that are metal as well. And that's fine. I have absolutely no problem doing that. But again, that's probably going to cost us between $500 and $1,000 in shipping costs. I think preference for my team would be that I carry them onto the plane, because that means they can work on them up until the minute and test and plan for competition. I feel that's a little more secure. I'm worried about shipping them, honestly, with just the current status of our world and things getting lost in transit. I think I would feel better knowing they were on the plane that I was traveling on. I don't know if
I
I've
said
missed
she
anything.
should buy a ticket and they could have their own seat.
That might actually be, I was just gonna say, that might be cheaper
Well,
than.
right
And
there.
and the metal box is not a made up thing, like it's something that exists. So-
Yeah, they're flight cases.
Yeah.
They're literally metal flight cases, and they range about $200 approximately. The one good thing is that if we buy the flight cases, they're typically sometimes on wheels, so the kids could use them to transport back and forth to tournaments in the future. And we could use them at hopefully our next bid to Worlds next year.
So we met today.
Go ahead.
I don't have my mic on, so. Oh, gosh. We met today as a team, Mr. Tarski, Mr. Looney, Mrs. Howe, Mrs. DeBoer and I, about just the amazing opportunity and how we can facilitate it. So we are very strongly recommending that the committee give approval for this. The district for this year would cover the cost of registration for both teams and for the fancy boxes and the shipping or carry-on costs or whatever. And then, as Mrs. Howe said, we want to build out a plan moving forward for additional financial support for programs like this. And we have some really great ideas, but our first round with these kids earning their opportunity to go, we think this is the best plan moving forward.
There is a small sense of immediacy just because some teams learned as early as December that they made it to Worlds by actually winning specific tournaments that give you that opportunity to go to Worlds. So as teams get the opportunity, they register and hotels get booked and planes get booked. And so the sooner we know, the sooner we can make the plans. And as it is right now, there's a chance that we all won't stay in the same hotel just because of financial costs and what hotels are available. Another expense will be my travel expenses to travel down to Dallas on top of the shipping of robots and the registration fees.
So the robotics team, this is currently considered a club, correct?
It is a club.
Versus being recognized by the school committee as a sport.
It's not an MIAA sport. We have not gone down that route. And to be honest, the majority of robotics competition teams are called teams, but they are not MIAA sponsored teams in other districts.
And I appreciate that. The only reason, if it was considered a sport by the school, right, we would be covering that cost automatically, correct?
So we started to discuss this today, and there is not enough precedent right now for us to, because of the immediacy of the need.
No, I know that
But
it's a subsequent
looking down the
conversation
yes, our
that should
goal would
happen
be-
to recognize, because I know we did this with gymnastics. It started off as kind of a club.
It's not quite the same.
But now that you're having regular competitions, I'm just wondering if we need to reconsider how that's structured.
Well, in terms of like the union side of, Mrs. Howe is paid as a coach
Right.
for this team on a quarterly basis. So, but she also anticipates tremendous growth in this team. And with the future, we have to have some sort of plan in place for being able to fully support the best we can as we move and
But I
grow.
don't think it requires the school committee to determine that they're a team for us to be able to fund that.
Yeah, no.
Well,
That's
a subsequent conversation. I'm sorry, I don't want us to get off track on what.
It's somewhat
we need to
similar
do.
to a couple years back when our Pro Start team went to one of the Carolinas. They're not an MIAA team either, but yes.
No,
similar.
you had me at our kids got selected to go to Dallas for World of Robotics. I mean,
I'm just looking at how we can
yeah,
better facilitate this on a go-forward basis, but that's a longer
That's totally
conversation.
our plan.
We have that in place, and we know that with the growth of the Quashnet Robotics team this year and them going to regionals, we anticipate, we have 30 strong on the robotics team currently. And if it continues to grow, we know, and I've had even conversations with Ashley and Mrs. DeBoer and Mrs. Hanscom about how we budget moving forward. To be honest, the team's only 7 years old. It seems to have exploded, at least for me. It seems like it's been overnight. You know, we went from one team of 4 to all of a sudden we have 6 teams competing this year. And to answer your question, are they competing regularly? Yes, sometimes they're competing up to 3 times a month on Saturdays. And sometimes, you know, every weekend for the whole straight month. So it can be quite busy.
go ahead. Was there something else you wanted to say, John?
No, I was gonna make a motion.
Oh. Well, why don't we do that first? Go ahead.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the field trip request for the robotics club for their trip to Dallas, May 4th through May 8th, 2022. As presented.
I'm gonna second that.
All right, we have first by Don, second by Kathy. Any further discussion? Okay, Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Thank you
And-
very much.
Sure. At the risk of sounding like everybody else, I just have to tell you what a tremendous sense of pride I feel at having you guys represent us and the hard work that you've put into this, the discipline it takes, just the sheer brain power. It is just impressive. Every time I hear about it, I'm just so grateful to you, Amanda, for your sort of the brainchild of this and sort of inspiring these kids. And I'm just so happy for you. And I think we need to make like, we need to make like hype videos for our robotics team. We need to work with Miss Fraser and like the media department to start getting some little, yeah, especially if you come back with some hardware.
Yeah.
from
There's some
Worlds.
talk about doing a 24-hour reveal. So the new game will come out in May. And we would like to actually have a scrimmage in June for future events. And we would like to do a 24-hour reveal. So just put that bug in your ear where the kids actually get to go to the school for 24 hours and they all work together to build a brand new robot. And then they video record it and throw it out on YouTube.
Okay,
So
I'm glad you explained what it was.
No, it's a reveal, but they literally work together for 24 hours straight to make a robot in 24 hours. And they throw it up as being like one of the first teams to have accomplished the new game. And
Okay,
that
fun.
is something they really would like to do. So keep that bug in your ear because we'll be asking for permission. How do we stay in the school for 24 hours coming up?
We can make that work.
And they really are something to be proud of. I just attended the International Conference for Technology Engineering Educators in Orlando, Florida. And the robot that you see here is far ahead of students in college that are building these same robots. It's been amazing to see what they have done. Do you want to hear from any of them? Any questions for them before I leave?
So I know a couple of you, but I don't think we've had all of you in here before. So could you guys introduce yourselves and tell us what grade you're in? And
I'm Sean Ware. I'm a junior in grade and what else?
that was a
Yeah, I'm a junior.
I'm Ethan, and I'm a junior as well.
Okay. Ethan.
My name's Camden Perry. I've been doing this in 7th grade and I'm a sophomore.
Wow, nice.
My name's Katrina May, and I'm also a junior.
Nice.
They've actually all been on the team since 7th grade. So they have a long run. And we currently have kids on the team from 7 through 11 right now.
Wow. Congratulations and good luck.
Are you guys looking to the future for like careers in this? Is that like a track you're heading on?
Yeah, I know a couple of us are interested in engineering and things like that.
Excellent.
And in addition to thanking Mrs. Howe, I do want to acknowledge the families of
Yes.
these participants because they are so devoted. I know that the Ware family has maybe a pit in their basement. I'm not sure.
Sort of the Mayans.
And the Mayans, okay, but just the, the number of weekends and just the support that you give to the program and to your children is so appreciated. And we couldn't do the program without our family, so thank you.
Yeah, I saw Sean's mom back there talking about the 24 hours, sort of like, oh, geez. They do almost. Yeah. Yeah. We would also like to thank though Consuelo Carroll and the We Are Mashpee store
Yes.
because we, prior to when the pandemic happened, we had to like alter course. We put our ring in their back storeroom, and that has been a godsend for us to be able to utilize that ring in practice outside of the school hours when parents are available to supervise, or I can go over there after school, and we look forward to that continued connection with Consuelo Carroll. It really, it's made a world of difference in their performance. Well, I hope we thank the Mashpee Commons too, because that
Yes.
space is given to us, and it's to be able to use it for something like this, in addition to what we're already doing, is really remarkable.
Could you take 1 minute to share out a little bit about your presentation in Orlando specific to #WeAreMashpee?
So I was fortunate enough to be able to attend the conference ITEA, as I said, in Orlando, Florida. And my presentation was on #WeAreMashpee store and how it creates innovative opportunities for our students and it connects to the community. My whole goal in the presentation was for other teachers to understand the model we've created and how technology and engineering and automated manufacturing, art students as well, music students, drafting students, are able to create their designs, take the skills that they've learned in the classroom, and then put them in the store to show the community. It really just connects the whole loop on teaching. It creates amazing, authentic assessment as a teacher, because you always want your kids to achieve at a high level, and you want them to understand that failure is okay, and that one and done doesn't make it great. But sometimes it's hard to get a student to realize that they should redo it for themselves. But with the store and the marketing aspect and quality control, one and done doesn't always work. So it really gives us an opportunity to practice iterative design. And that was what my presentation was about. It was so well received, and that's definitely something Mashpee can be proud of. I don't think there's one in any other place in the country. When I was giving my presentation, people were saying like, wow, that's where we want to be. Like, you're just that many more steps ahead of us. And I know that Mr. Looney was the one who had that vision. And I can honestly say, when he took me there years ago and said, this is what we're going to do, I thought, oh no, really? But years later, our students have really benefited from this opportunity. And it was just really cool to share with districts, districts much bigger than ours that don't have what we have. And to quote Mr. Looney, what we have here is really special. And when you go to a national conference and see that, you're really happy where you're at. Well said. Thank you, Mr. Looney.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good luck,
guys.
yeah.
I do think they should buy seats for the robots. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, either that or make sure you get the insurance package on
Yeah.
this.
It won't move. But I
But
think
I could see Amanda, I love that photograph of Miss Howell on the plane, surrounded by robots. Just belt them all in.
Put a drink in one.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's see. Next, we have Mr. Treveri from the back.
And you do have in your packet on page 20, a cover memo from Mr. Treveri specific to the coach's handbook that is also included, like pages 21 through 6, no. Yeah, it's in there, so you can
Thank
talk
you.
about that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think we're going to make obviously some updates to our coach's handbook. But before that, I do that, I just want to, publicly state and kind of echo the superintendent. Huge thank you from myself personally, our athletic department, to Jonah Erdman, Hunter Toby, who are tremendous. For our athletic department, they just year in and year out, they are lifesavers. And I don't really know what we're gonna do without those kids. We start paying people a lot of money, but they do a great job. And they've been tremendously helpful, whether it's the auditorium, gym, stadium. They're the best and great representatives for our school and school district. So the updates to our coach's handbook, we just want to make sure that they're in there. Much of this is what we go over with our coaches. We have meetings every season with our coaches, fall, winter, and spring. But we want to make sure that it's in writing. I think one of the most important things is, in particular, as it relates to middle school basketball, is the idea that when we have kind of an overflow of kids, that we have it stated that we have an A and B basketball team. We get surprised sometimes. Well, I'm not sure how many kids are coming out this year. We had 25, 26 girls who came out, numbers that we haven't seen in a long time. And while that's great for us, in our handbook, it's one coach. That's a lot to ask for one coach. For the boys, we've had this for years. Our coaches have never complained about it. They never said, hey, why do we have to do 2 games in a row? Why do we have 15, 20 kids? Sometimes we get help, sometimes we don't. I will say the last 3 years, we get less and less people apply for jobs, for coaching positions. I think it mirrors what happens in society. And it's the 3 o'clock starts aren't easy either for people. So we want to put it in there to make sure that early on, if we have that idea that we might have a number of kids, we can go out and get people to help out. We could have additional eyes, supervision, and people to work with our kids in capacities on and off the floor as well. So that's why we're looking at that change on page 5. The communications piece is something, again, that we talk about at all of our preseason meetings. Our coaches are aware of. I think as much as anything else, this handbook goes to every new coach that we have that comes into the district, volunteer or paid. We want to make sure that they're aware of obviously responsibilities and the supervisory one. We're going to try to get more people, certainly with our younger teams. We'd love to get parent volunteers to help out. I know that's not easy on people's schedules, but for our travel and particularly some of our longer trips, or whether it's a trip to the Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard. So those are the changes that we're looking at in the coach's handbook.
So I don't see the specific changes flagged. So are you saying they're not in here yet?
No, so what's on his memo is not currently in that
No.
handbook.
Sorry.
Proposed.
I'm sorry, I lost the memo.
Okay.
I apologize. Okay, now that makes more sense.
So the reference to the A and B team is within that chart that's on page 5, which is page
26.
26 in the packet. There's a 5 at the very bottom. So it's just acknowledging that in that middle school sports offerings in the second chart. And then the other 2 pieces on the memo are related to page 33 of the packet, but it's page 12 of the coach's handbook. And it's adding 2 bullets under the communications section and 1 bullet under the supervisory section.
So I don't have to look at page 12 to kind of get the gist of it, but I mean, so we had in this specific case, I mean, sort of a perfect storm of problems in a way, and some of which out of our control, and I get that. But I think that if in this case, we had more than 20 girls traveling on that trip. And so, the proposal here is if you have more than 10 members, you have at least 2 adults. Well, that might not have been sufficient for that trip. So what do we do when that number hits 20? I mean, does it trigger, shouldn't we have something in our policy that says, and like I said, I'm not convinced what happened wouldn't have happened if we had 16 adults on the trip. I have no idea, but I think it was, so this to me doesn't really address the numbers that were in play at that event.
Well, I mean, I first of all, our teams don't go over those sort of numbers. So our max is usually, we're taking 20 kids. We're 2 people, 20 kids, somewhere in that neighborhood. I wouldn't put a number on it. I wouldn't say what's like a 1 to 10, 10 to 1 ratio. I think we get in trouble there. I would not recommend that, but if it does and we can't field that, then then we'd have to look at keeping kids home on trips. That's kind of, if we're going to look to put those numbers in that way, we can't fill that, and oftentimes we can't. I think we had our volunteers go over to a trip for a boys' middle school. 17 people 17 emails went home. We had 1 person. We got lucky to get that 1 person. So it's not easy to find those people. That's why we have the secondary coach. I think for us, 2 coaches, 26 people to me is
outrageous. It's, you know, in that situation you're talking about, two people would have been exceptionally helpful. But, you know, I think we start to put those numbers and values on, I think we run into problems. We don't have, and honestly, we're not keeping 20, 25 kids is a one-time thing. 30 kids would be, we don't have uniforms for that. We don't, that creates problems of all of its own.
Yeah, except that we advertise that we don't cut kids, that every child is welcome to play. So don't we have to sort of prepare ourselves for the possibility that you could, you know, we could start be talking about dozens of kids for multiple sports.
Well, we do cut kids.
Yeah.
We have cuts at the high school level for basketball. Occasionally we have cuts at the middle school level. I think we did this year for boys basketball.
Oh.
Part of the thing with girls is that we had enough uniforms. We had a coach who was competent and does a good job. And we want to grow that program. I think in some ways, you know, we didn't want to cut kids at that level. That program has struggled with numbers. We want to grow that program. We want those kids to enjoy it. I think they did, and move on with the program. It becomes difficult, I think, when you get in those numbers, 25 to 30 kids. And that's, I think, why we have that one on page 5, where we add that secondary team, so we can go out and make sure that we have a coach in a paid capacity, to not only just for supervisory, but to coach, to have to increase skill level on kids, and to be around kids and be a positive influence on kids. So that's why we would look at, you know, 5 and, you know, the page 5, page 12, I think go hand in hand in many ways.
And would you ever choose to alternate? It's most, you know, of most concern is the trips on the boats. Would you ever consider a certain group gets to go to the Nantucket game and a certain group gets to go to the Martha's Vineyard game, and not everybody goes to each game if we had a situation?
Yeah, unfortunately, if we didn't have the coverage, we'd have to do something like an A and a B team.
Yeah.
So one time the A team goes, then the B team goes, and you have coverage. What it creates is it creates issues with, you know, creates issues either for the coach. It's more games to go to. We typically don't have issues with that. We would make sure both teams go. You don't want to just have one team go and not the other. So you want to make sure you have equity in that sense. But we could certainly cut it down, and we have. It just makes it a little more difficult for home. You want to play those games typically back to back, because you'd have a limited number of open dates in a lot of facilities and a lot of people that we play.
So when I read at number 3, literally, and it says plan accordingly to ensure at least 2 adults accompany the team. What if you can't find 2 adults? Does that mean you don't play?
Yeah, so that's where we run into problems. And again, the issue becomes, can we get people to help out? Can we get people to volunteer? Can we get people on the paid side to show up? I mean, we hope we'll post jobs typically at the middle school level, sub-RC level. We'll have 2 or 3 applicants. This is going through multiple systems of application. Sometimes we just don't get those sort of numbers to apply. Typically at the high school side, we'll have if we have a varsity and JV, we have 2 coaches. That's usually not an issue. I think we're more looking at this from the middle school lens, because that's where we typically run into problems with bigger numbers, smaller numbers of staff members. Usually at the high school level, between paid coaches and volunteers, we don't have those sort of issues.
And I think part of what this tried to capture, Mr. Taveri said that the schedule comes out for the whole season early on. And so sitting down and actually planning and getting those people to commit, not the week ahead of time saying, hey, we're going to Nantucket, we need a volunteer, getting all of that really sort of concrete ahead of time as early as possible. Because then parents, if they're volunteering, could commit. Or obviously, if we have a B coach, then there would always be 2 adults going.
Is there something, has anyone thought of like a team parent, or is it something that we could pair up with like the Southport Falcons, for example, to become like that team, you know, I don't want to say sorority mom, but like something where like they're with the team as a volunteer rather than the paid. Their flexibility is a little bit better than say some parents with work schedules. I don't know if that came up in conversation, but there might be an untapped resource there for.
We've had a couple parents who've helped out in the past. And as you say, some people have much more flexible schedules than others. the earlier trips tend to create more problems, whether it's to Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, or let's say we go to Randolph, it's an hour away. The majority of people at the middle school level are very, very close. They're within a 30-minute, 40-minute radius. High school for much further away, but we have more people. But we have had parents help out. I think that's going to be a push that we do early in the season.
Yeah, like a
So-
0.1 parent to be like the team parent.
Yeah, that's going to be a push next year to, and obviously it's a double-edged sword in some ways. There's other issues that come with bringing people in, obviously, but that is going to be a push that we have our initial email from our coaches to our parents that we're going to look for help on this date, this date, and this date. And if you want to help more, hey, we're open for it. We certainly will never push away help. We'll never push away people to volunteer.
So can you put into context for us the challenge that was the sports season in terms of cancellations and reschedules and all that stuff relative, to a normal, whatever happened before COVID? I mean, I had a kid participating in athletics, so I knew some of those things that were happening, but I don't know what it is in a normal year. So can you tell us, was this extraordinary?
This winter was. Last year in COVID, I thought, we did as much as anybody else. We had our kids participating, playing, moving around. That was the goal. I think you supported that school committee. We appreciated that, and it worked. This year with the onslaught of Omicron, with getting shut down for 2 weeks, having to move games, having to move practices, it was exceptionally difficult. Every year is exceptionally difficult. Athletics is very fluid with changes, cancellations, movements. This year was something different. It was a lot. Working with obviously with Stacy was helpful in that it was a pretty smooth system. Tim, our trainer, helped out in many, many ways and really took over for athletics when it came to the COVID stuff. But it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, the constant emails, of contact tracing. It was a ton this year.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm surprised at how long this is.
You approved it in August of 19.
I know, I'm just, it is, there's a lot in here.
We tried to cover everything.
Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe you should do a little quiz afterwards, make sure everybody's digested it. And the coaches are all overseen by you?
They are.
Okay. So,
They are, and that's why we meet every season, just to make sure we're all on the same page with changes, rules, regulations, school regulations, school changes, et cetera.
okay, I think, are you guys, are we gonna vote on the updates to the handbook? That's what's scheduled?
We did put an asterisk, but I know that this is the first time you've seen the changes, so.
Any thoughts from committee?
I guess I just wanted, I'm still stuck on the point that I brought up earlier. So for all of the teams that are listed on page 5, I don't know what the numbers as far as participation, but there's at least one coach. Well, let me rephrase it. You're confident that the coach, and I guess in combination with yourself, would be able to meet the requirement that there would be at least 2 adults if there were 10 student athletes, correct?
Yeah, we would be confident in that. And then again, if we can't get people, then there's times we may not play. I think that push and emphasis probably helps people to jump in and help out. But I think for us, it's getting that second person on board at the middle school level more than anything else. We really haven't had those sort of issues at the high school level. It's more the middle school level.
I was just looking at the numbers from the other report. So would you like us, so you'd like these changes approved so we could, since we had the opportunity to discuss it, then you can submit it at the next meeting and then we can vote then? Or
Sure.
is that fine with you?
Not a problem at all.
Okay. All right. I have you next to talk about sailing as well.
Sailing. So sailing has been, it's been.
Are you a
an eye-opener.
sailor, Matt?
I am not. It is an eye opener. We have a terrific number of kids that signed up. So after many phone calls, many phone calls to athletic directors, sailing coaches, some yacht clubs, the ones that are open. I think we looked at, when I talked to the superintendent before, we're looking to try to get someplace of our own. That is going to be exceptionally difficult for many reasons. I think some of it's geography. Mashpee in some ways would be very difficult to have sail out. There isn't really sailing, a place to sail out of in Mashpee. We could sail certainly on lakes, ponds, which Sandwich does, but we would look more towards Falmouth. But the problem with Falmouth is they already have one of the yacht clubs that they take care of. Other places aren't open yet, aren't planning on opening. And I think what we've narrowed down to is potentially having a co-op at some point with Bourne, which sails out of Kingsman, which isn't far away. Kingsman for us is maybe 20-25 minutes the most. I've been in contact with their athletic director and calling with their coach. Their coach is going to have a call with Kingsman. Their coach is excited at the prospect of doing that. If we get our own team, there's major obstacles. Those obstacles, number one, is finding somewhere else to sail on. We would probably be looking further east towards Hyannis Yacht Club, which does the Sturgis's, Barnstable, Cape Cod Academy. They have the boats available, which makes it tremendously beneficial, as does Kingsman. If not, and you're looking at getting your own fleet of boats, new, they're $10,000 a piece. Or you can go through some of the higher end private schools, the Tabors of the world, where you'd purchase them for somewhere in the neighborhood of half of that are used. Like anything else, your kids take care of those boats. Your kids are in charge of it. Obviously, for us, the biggest issue right now is finding a coach. That is obviously with sailing, there's inherent risk involved with kids that are not familiar with boats. Just last year, Barnstable, whose kids were familiar, they were on the news because their kids got stranded out in Hyannis. Straight out of the water, had to be rescued out of the water. We have a number of kids that signed up that don't have experience. We have a number that did, though. We do have, I think, 7 kids who have experience. I know that that's certainly enticing for Bourne, that could be, a potential windfall for them and work really well. We'd love to have our own coaching staff, have our own team. Because we have kids that don't have experience, we can kind of break that up among 1 or 2 coaches right now. Finding a coach has been nearly impossible. It has been impossible because we haven't found one yet. I did talk to one of the coaches who started up the Barnstable program. We talked to a couple guys out of the Katuitt Mosquito, and it's just right now trying to make connections, trying to find people. We've advertised several different places. MIA, it's actually on our social media site. We've also advertised, obviously, if you drive by the big billboard on 151. And right now we have no interest in that position. And I think it's going to be a hard sell to a lot of people because of the newness of the program, number one. Some of the kids that don't have experience, number two, and then making sure we have all the equipment. But we are certainly still actively looking. And we're going to probably be meeting with Bourne sometime later this week, Thursday, Friday. And I know we've talked to Sandwich as well. Sandwich has actually offered for us to go over there. I have to meet with the rec director because he's worried about the number of people on it's Oak Crest, the one on right across from Stop and Shop and Sandwich. So there are options. It's just trying to get all these things together. We're working on that now. So it's been a lot.
So, I mean, is there a proposal or anything, or are you still exploring? Are you trying to make this happen for this school year? Or
We're trying to make it happen for this school year. at least in a teaching capacity and just to get our kids started. And then if we still have solid numbers, we're looking to break off and do our own thing at some point. So that's, yeah, we're looking to certainly start this year. And then we're looking after that piece, we're looking to have something on our own if the numbers hold. And we have enough experienced kids. You need, theoretically, you need eight kids. You need 6 to 8 kids at the minimum. In a perfect world, you would need 10 kids with experience to be able to have a team and to be able to sell competitively.
Well, we do a co-op for hockey, right? We do a co-op for gymnastics.
We do. This would not be, this would not be something new for us. Per pupil cost, we could split. Having the vans makes it advantageous for travel. So this would not be something new. It's something that would be doable. Something that, you know, I think we can do and we want to try to get for our kids.
Great. I full disclosure, my kid's a sailor, so I'll just have to disclose that just to feel good about this, but I'm personally very excited about it. But I also think, I think we're one of the only schools on the Cape that doesn't have a sailing program. Are there other districts that don't?
I think just Bourne has on and off has had one.
Bourne has on and off. So the Bourne kids sail through Bourne Community. They also help fund the program or have in the past. Last year they did not. The year before they did. Some years are like 2 years in a row. Some years they don't. Larger schools, districts around us do. Even some of the smaller ones on the other end of the Cape, Monomoy does as well. Some years they have enough kids. Some years they don't. Some of these smaller schools, but the larger schools usually have enough kids. It's not a problem.
Gotcha. Yes, Don.
Did you prepare a budget for this program?
It all depends. I mean, if we were to go off on our own, it depends on a lot of things. It depends upon where you sail out. If you sail to somewhere that has boats, you're looking at potential rental cost. You're looking at potential upkeep cost, and you're also looking at, you know, travel costs potentially if you have enough kids and we're traveling outside of vans, using school vans. If we're looking at having to buy our own boats, that's a whole different world in terms of budget. So we were looking at actually purchasing our own boats. That would be more in that rather large range.
So for this year, you've looked at your athletic budget and you feel comfortable that you can do this?
I feel comfortable that we could do this in so much as that we would go somewhere where we have boats. We could use a rental cost, an upkeep cost. The only problem is you don't know until you sign an agreement what the upkeep cost is over the winter. So there's upkeep costs not only in season, there's out of season costs too. Each place is different. High-end Yacht Club tends to be the one that has the lowest cost associated with this. Kingsman apparently does a great job with basically giving the boats for free to Bourne, which helps. If we're in a co-op, it obviously cuts down on the amount of money that we're looking at as well. I feel confident that we have enough in revolving. If we were to go over in the budget, that revolving is there for something like this and would be worthy of something like this.
Great. Any other questions for Matt? This is happening like in a couple weeks, right?
We're trying to, if we end up going with Bourne or Sandwich, we'd be probably trying to turn it around in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah.
Great. Good luck.
All right.
We'll
Thank
make
you,
a
Matt.
sailor out of you yet, Matt.
What's that?
We'll make a sailor out of you yet.
I'll be in the water quick.
Okay, so next one should be quick. We have the face coverings policy. We're just updating to reflect that busing, the mask on buses that was lifted since our last meeting. It's really a housekeeping item since we didn't have to do this for that to take place. I'll take a motion.
So on page 68, we're removing the bulleted line that's in red. And we also added a reference section down below that supports that.
make a motion to approve policy EBCFA as presented with the edits.
Great. A motion by Kathy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any discussion? Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. All right, so now the big business. Who am I turning this over to?
We were gonna ask if you would consider shifting the last bullet item in new business. So then Mr. Looney would not have to.
I didn't realize
Oh.
Shirley was coming when we recommended moving the other.
Oh, I'm
piece of
sorry,
new
I was,
business. Is it too late to make that?
I'm fine with that, if that's okay, with everybody, yeah.
Sorry.
I thought Mike was here just to watch the meeting, no?
And Deb,
Um,
you can go home. Deb,
So
if
is
you
this
like.
the Health Careers Learning Center?
Yes.
Okay,
So, I have offered to read the letter that Mr. Looney submitted.
Okay.
And I would like to read that. So it's in, so dear members of the Mashpee School Committee, on October 5th, 2020, we lost Mr. Paul A. Funk, a member of our school community since 2006 and a leader unlike any other. Paul's contribution to the Mashpee Public Schools, both personally and professionally, will have a lasting impact for all who knew him and the thousands of students and administrators who will never have the privilege. I write today to request that the new Health Careers Learning Center be dedicated in his name. Paul spent more than 50 years in public education as a teacher, assistant superintendent, and business director. While in Mashpee, he guided countless school committee members, administrators, and staff to create unparalleled opportunities for our students. Working in partnership with all stakeholders, Paul helped to put Mashpee Public Schools on track to provide opportunities other communities could only admire. Through Paul's selfless dedication, the Mashpee Public School District has grown exponentially and received statewide and national recognition as a progressive leader in comprehensive education. Through his expertise in finance, academics, and vocational education, Paul brought innovative programs with industry-grade equipment to our schools. He made it possible for us to update all spaces, tools, and equipment for students to have immersive experiences while applying their academics to real-world, hands-on learning opportunities. And you don't have to look far to see the countless projects across our school system that were made possible under Paul's leadership. The renovation and purchase of equipment to build the technology center and makerspace, the transformation of a home economics classroom into a commercial kitchen with a Falcon Cafe, the creation of a Mac lab for students to create computer-generated graphics, the purchase of industry-grade equipment for the wood shop, entry into the world of virtual and augmented reality with emerging technologies, the opening of a school store in the Mashpee Commons, and most recently, the creation of a space to train future healthcare workers, just to name a few. I personally had the tremendous opportunity to work with Paul on many of these efforts, and for that, I will be forever grateful. Paul was an entrepreneur who chose to work in education. While we will miss him dearly, we will all work to model his unique ability to lead, communicate, listen, understand, and support. He was one in a million, a friend and advocate to all. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Michael Looney, Director of Career and Technical Education. And there is a picture, not that that's the actual font that the sign will be, but the name would be the Paul A. Funk Health Careers Learning Center. And this, I mean, it does have an asterisk, but this can also be something that you could choose to vote on at the next meeting as well, since you didn't have a lot of heads up about it.
That was a really nice letter, Mike.
You made everybody cry.
I can't think of a person more deserving than Paul to have a learning center named after him. He's a fabulous individual and someone we miss every day. I think that this would be a great honor to do this, and would make a motion that we approve the naming of the Learning Center, the Paul A. Funk Health Careers Learning Center as requested.
A motion by Don,
I'll second.
and a second by Kathy. Any further discussion? I can't say it any better than you did, Don, so thank you for that. Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you.
So we will schedule a special event and invite his family when we get the words created and hung.
It's a great idea.
We'll have our meeting in the health center.
Yes,
There you go.
love that. Yeah. Okay. Anything else we're gonna change or do? Good night, Deb.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah. So who's going to lead us in this conversation? Ashley, Superintendent?
I probably, I can support. We did meet, yes, we've met several times to work out various scenarios to make it possible for us to fund the HVAC project at the Coombs School. And to just go back, we have ESSER 3 money, which required us to survey our stakeholders to determine to gather their input on what to use those funds for. And the top response was to improve the HVAC systems in our schools. This has really turned into sort of a multi-phase project because each building, there is a cost to it. And what we were trying to do is to access the ESSER funds with a combination of school choice funds to be able to do one of the schools sooner and to get it going. And so we did, there was a feasibility study done. The company came back with each school's plan. We went over that, Ashley, myself, Catherine Laurent, and Brad Tripp, we went over those and sort of came back with some tweaks in terms of, well, we wouldn't do the gymnasiums in the elementary schools because, it's spring, they go outside. So we were looking for ways to save. And so those recommended changes have gone back to the company, and I believe we're waiting for their adjusted proposals. So we based our planning in terms of the Coombs School over the price that doesn't include some of the reductions for those tweaks. So the overall project, you'll see, so you have this handout, this colored chart handout. The estimated project cost for the Coombs HVAC system is $3,980,162, which does include contingencies. So that is going to come down. So that was sort of the high end that we are looking at. And so you can see option A, B, and C in terms of ways to do this. It does involve, I think, actually, well, each plan, maybe Ashley can go over the plan specifically, but part of our concern is the fact that we've always had the practice of using our school choice program funds 1 year in arrears so that you have a known number that you're working with. This plan doesn't really, or at least several of them, doesn't really continue with that model because we would be using current program funds in the year that we receive them. And so there is a little bit of an unknown there. There is also moving forward with our operating budgets with the town, our ability to offset our operating budget from the school choice account would not be there because we are taking sort of what has amassed and putting it towards this project so that there would be no burden to the town in terms of funding this project. Now, in terms of the other two projects, the Quashnet School and the middle high school HVAC projects, there is conversation with the town that would be combined with a planned HVAC project at Town Hall, and that there would be a bond that would go out for that project, but that does put it further down down the line. And, you know, there is an urgency, from my opinion. I mean, I have endured heat in particularly upstairs Coombs, where I was a teacher, where, you know, it's not uncommon from May until the end of the school year, and then early all the way sometimes till October, where you'd have sweat drip down your back because it's so hot in those spaces. So we've been talking about this for a long time, the opportunity to use the, you know, ESSER funds, that federal source, is something we'd really like to take advantage of. We can use our school choice funds for this project because it will benefit all students. And Ashley has confirmed that. There was some confusion or questioning from the town side that that's not an allowable use of those funds, but it absolutely is. And so we do feel that we would like to move forward to be able to do this project during FY23. And, you know, it is a lengthy project, which will involve some logistics of shifting students around at the Coombs School while the work is accomplished. But we would prefer to move forward. But what you have on this sheet is option A, which is actually my preference apparently, which is beginning the project in FY23. Then option B and option C both have the project beginning a year later, with obviously approvals that are needed from individuals other than the school committee. And ESSER 2, which is 300,000, correct? Yeah, ESSER 2 would not be able to be used because that has to go during FY23. So I don't know, Ashley, if you want to walk them through any of that, or because you have, so you have on the agenda is the well, two things.
So,
yeah, so the second page of this has to do with an adjustment to school. So you have, one of the big things that you need to do tonight is decide as a committee if you're going to increase the school choice program offset against our FY23 budget from what you had previously approved, which was the $654,198 to $1,054,198, because the town manager has submitted a recommended budget, which has been approved by both the select board and the finance committee, that reflects that additional 400,000 offset to our FY23 budget. So as a committee, you have to make a decision about that, but that also impacts the planned HVAC project, which Ashley can detail a little bit.
so just to make sure that the committee members realize that because the town manager is submitting the omnibus budget, on the budget, it will, if we make no changes, it will reflect what the department has requested, and it will reflect what the town manager is requesting. The voters, if they approve the budget, the omnibus budget, they're approving what the town manager is recommending. Only if they do not approve it, then there is debate in regard to making changes to the total and how that gets allocated back to the various departments. So even if we make no change to what we've already submitted, that's not what the voters are voting on. They're voting on the town manager. So just.
So the change, our change, a vote to change would be more symbolic than anything else, is what you're saying.
Yes. At this point, that's correct.
And so I understand what you're saying, Patty. You are in favor of increasing the offset by the 400,000 for FY23. But then you're also in favor of option A, which means you would not have any offset in FY '24.
That's correct. So if you look at that first box under option A, it acknowledges that we're going to use $1,054,198 to offset that FY '23 budget. And so then you look at the impact of, as we move closer to the end of FY '22, our current year, we will work extremely hard to not have to expend or incorporate the offset that we have planned for, because that would allow that money to go towards this project.
In addition to
24.
24? Or FY 23?
Well, so we have that offset sort of earmarked this year, and knowing that we're, 3 months away from March, April, May, June, 3 months away from being done, ASHE will have, a stronger ability to confirm if we're able to not apply the offset this year, which would leave that money into the school, in the school choice program fund, which would allow us to put it towards the HVAC system. Then the second bullet in that lower box, second box, says that for FY '24 operating budget, there would be no school choice program offset because there's nothing left in there. And we're expending, FY '23 as we're getting it, so there's nothing building up. So that would have to be well communicated and understood from the town's perspective, because with the $1 million+ offset in FY '23, it represents a 0.44, I believe, % increase over our FY '22 budget. That is not, then all of a sudden you're going to see a pretty significant bump, because this is not, that $1 million offset is sort of an abnormal piece. So we'd have to make sure we communicate that. And then, like we said, FY '23 school choice program revenue being used in the year that it is received is a little bit, concerning, because it's an unknown amount. Kids come and go. And then you see down, in that first column, the 3 amounts of funding, and then what the remaining balance of the school choice program funds would be, basically following those pieces that I just said in the second box. We would still take this project, just for the record, we will still take this project before CIP, and probably planning and construction would look at it as well. But when we go to CIP for their approval, the funding sources would be identified. There would be no impact for the town to find any of the money.
So you don't think it's a stretch to start this in '23?
No.
Operational?
No.
No, well, just on the field, and that would happen this summer, and then in the fall, we would start this project. So you put it before CIP without asking for any funding.
Yes.
And did we ran that by anybody?
No, but it has a holding place in CIP because we didn't have proposals back. So it's not something that CIP is unaware of. And so presenting the project, obviously it's a combined project. It is a DPW primarily because it's a building project that we are supporting, but we would be presenting it to them, and then these would be where the funds would come from.
So it would be a follow-up to the FY '23 CIP presentation that was made, where this was a placeholder. So it wouldn't be a new, sorry, the mic just.
And obviously we'd have to request, that the CIP committee come together so that we could present the project.
But in theory, if we ended up with a budget's an appropriation surplus for FY '23, that could be carried over to
Yes.
FY '24, correct?
Yes, yes. That's correct.
These are no numbers at the time. School choice, we will get a true up at the end of the year for our any special education costs. So while I'm projecting $670,000 in revenue for FY22, that could be upwards to $700,000 by the end of the year. And that gives us a little bit of a buffer as we move forward. As we compound that from 22 to 23, that could be an additional $100,000 that could be added.
Right, but I guess the bottom line is there's no reasonable expectation that there would be $1 million available in FY24 to offset the town budget.
If we fund at 100%, it includes the HVAC project.
And if we waited for the town to go through their process, who knows when that would happen, right? Because there's other things on their list, such as redoing roofs, etc., that don't have a funding source either.
No, but I do think according to the town manager, the HVAC system at the town hall is on its last legs. And so I believe he has a sense of urgency with regard to that project. So I would anticipate that, and he did, they would be grouped, that would be an FY24, but you have a lot of competing requests for funding, and that's not going to be a small project.
Right.
He's publicly discussed having a global HVAC upgrade, looking at all of the buildings throughout the town, and doing it as a bonding project. So that was what he was thinking for going into FY24. However, I just said there are competing interests such as wastewater and things of that nature.
And I do think of all of the buildings in the town, the schools are the only ones that currently do not have any type of air conditioning in the major portion of their buildings. The town hall currently does have an air conditioning system. It doesn't allow individualization at all. It comes on and it's on until it goes off in October. And so part of their project involves more flexibility with that individual offices.
Are you about to say something?
Well, so we've got kind of apples and oranges here.
Well, the first apple is whether we want to do the 400,000. So we're gonna, but to me, they're connected because I didn't want you guys to see that decision as not affecting our ability to do the HVAC. But what I'm seeing here tonight is that, every one of these options provides the 400K now. So this can be sort of bifurcated from this issue, which is on the other side of this, regarding the additional 400K for the FY23 budget.
I think it needs to be. I see what you're saying, that they coincide, but I do think they're separate. So
Yeah, originally there was some question about whether we would be able to do the HVAC and do the 400K, but it seems to me that we can.
And our vote is only on the adjustment to school choice program offset. It's not on this HVA, like per the agenda. There's no vote on the HVAC.
Right. We don't have to vote on these tonight.
Yeah, let's take care of the 400. I think it is important to note that the expectation has always been that the appropriation would cover salaries. But what I'm seeing here is that's not going to be the case if we reduce our budget request.
And just to know, at the FY '22 budget, we did increase our school choice offset after to cover the contractual obligations in our operating budget, and the town did support our salaries last year. So moving forward into FY '23, the additional school choice funds offsetting the operational budget, the town would not be supporting the full salary amount.
May I ask a question? Were they supporting our full salary amount without the 400K? In other words, the increase was 2.16 without the additional 400,000.
Yes.
Does that support?
So that's the 500 to 2,000 would be both.
Does that support our obligation, our contractual obligations? It does. Okay. Thanks.
Because the salary portion of the increase in FY '23 is 332,431.
Perfect. And transportation.
And that would be 170,395 on the operating side.
So it's almost exactly what we asked for with the 2.16% budget is the contractual obligations. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
And just for clarification, the town typically covers salary, like Dawn said, that's typically what's covered is the salaries, and this would be kind of an off year that they're not covering it.
They're requesting us to use funds that we haven't used in the past 2 years.
So is anyone ready to make a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion that we adjust the school choice program offset up by $400,000, making our FY '23 budget. Wait, so do I want to hit this bottom line, this? $23,402,261. Might as well just see where everyone's at. Do I have a second?
No second.
Okay, Brian seconds. So we can have additional discussion if needed.
I just see this as a bad precedent. With one, a bad precedent. Number two, it was something that was kind of sprung on the school committee as far as I'm aware, without really any discussion by the town manager. So, I do believe, we've tried to faithfully manage our budgets. The last 2 years with COVID has been an exceptional time. And no one knew exactly where we were going or what we would end up with. We've been fortunate to, amass some funds here to address some things really that came as a result of COVID and a better appreciation of how the ventilation systems in our schools impact our students and our faculty. And so having an opportunity to try to address that on a timely basis to me is important. So even though, as I mentioned earlier, this is really just a meaningless vote because the way the omnibus budget works, I'm not in favor of it on moral principle. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is what I expressed at the working group. So
yeah,
my opinion has not changed.
Okay. Yeah, and as I've said, I think we're sort of left without a ton of options at the present. I do think that the last couple of years are pretty anomalous, and that this request and this, should we grant this, should be also regarded as anomalous, because we will not be in the position to do this again, and we would not be if not for COVID. So I don't think this is precedent setting at all. And but I also think that with $3 million of town money going to support our multi-use stadium project, I think it's symbolic to say that we're willing to support this request. And I agree with you about the way the town manager came back to the schools to, I mean, I don't even know that he came back and requested the funds. I think he just, he just did it. So, but like I said, if that money weren't sitting in an account, it wouldn't even be possible. So I'm hoping that we come up with a plan to spend down the choice funds, and look forward to us making that decision soon. Brian or Kathy, anything to add to the discussion?
I see both sides. I kind of do worry a little bit about a precedent being set. I understand what you're saying about it being a bit anomalous in terms of not necessarily how it's been, but I do worry that it may set a precedence. But if the money's not there in the future, then the money's not there in the future. You know, like if we do need to spend it down. I agree. I just am a little worried about a precedent being set, but I understand, and I do share the same concerns you and Don voiced about how it was proposed to us or not proposed to us.
May I make a suggestion to, when your vote, particularly whichever way you vote, but in order, I think it should be captured in a letter to the town manager that afterwards, because there's no paper trail to this. It's like whichever way you vote, yes or no. But I think if you were to vote yes and approve the additional 400,000, there needs to be sort of a communication that goes from the school committee to the town, capturing this and really emphasizing that this is an anomaly and that it should not be expected moving forward. And
can I add something? Is
Yes.
that okay? And also just to say that because we, however, if the school choice money is spent down, that doesn't mean that the district wouldn't be asked to cut the budget in order to make up the difference of what we have been putting in typically. So I just wanted to publicly say that us not have, or us, it's the school district not having school choice funding in the pot does not preclude us from having to make up that 537,000 that we have typically put in over the past at least 5 years that I've been here. Dawn, I don't know if it's longer than that.
No, I mean.
So sorry, I just wanted to make that
I mean,
clarification.
and I feel like that I look forward to having that conversation with the town manager, should it come to that. Especially in light of, yes,
Yeah.
Don.
I mean, this would not be the first time that there's been a difference between the department request and the town manager's budget. That has happened a few times that I recall. To your point, the town manager really in essence is cutting our budget. He's just saying use choice funds if you want it to still be where your level funding, because this is not level funding. This is not representative of what's taking place in other departments. It's not representative of what's taking place at the tech school, etc. So it is truly a reduction, and it's being funded out of this in order for us to have level services.
All right, I'm gonna call for the question then. Sounds like we've set. Brian, I'm afraid that means you're first.
Yes.
Yes, Don,
No.
Kathy,
No.
I vote yes. So we are split.
So the motion fails.
Oh, I was like, what happened?
Yep. So, yes,
I was gonna ask, not to prolong it, but if the, well, is this coming back to us in the subsequent meeting?
The
The side with the colors.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, I'll save my questions. So we don't prolong the meeting.
thank you. School committee meeting schedule adjustment.
Well, this is the FY 23 meeting schedule.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was reading adjustment from the line above it. I apologize. So FY 23 school committee meeting schedule. So normally what we do at this point is you take this home and you take a look at it and you identify any conflicts so that we can kind of known ones that we can anticipate, like Brian, tribal council meeting or something that you might have, or Cape Cod collaborative meetings or anything like that. This is an opportunity for you to identify those conflicts. And as you know, and realize we change them all the time. So
We try.
we're not
try for the
committing
third
you to
Wednesday.
anything, but it would be nice to have a calendar of meetings for us to all plan out. So we're not going to vote on that tonight. That's all right.
Yes, let us know if you have suggested changes that we can work into the next month's presentation, so you can explore options. Yes.
Okay. So subcommittee liaison meeting working groups. I think the finance working group, you're kind of looking at it. This was what we talked about, were these options and various funding scenarios to do the HVAC project. It'll be nice when we have we have the updated project costs. So we hope to get that soon. Should be an interesting conversation now in light of tonight's vote. And then negotiations subcommittee. Do we have anything you want to?
No, Unit C is continuing to move forward. We're getting, I think, through some of the easier parts of it. The harder parts are going to be coming up here. So I'm still optimistic we'll get it concluded by the end of the school year.
Yes, any questions? No, okay. We have a meeting, I think, the next 2 weeks on Unit C. Items I didn't know in advance. I didn't know Brian's face was going to show up in my email box today.
That's so cool.
I know.
It's a great picture too.
It's a great picture. I wish all our big audience were here so I could again say how Mashpee's going to be in the national spotlight again when Brian Whedon speaks at the American Indian Alaska Native Council sponsored breakfast at the National School Board Association meeting in San Diego on April 4th. And I get to introduce him.
Really?
I do. So I need to know all the dirt. Everybody send it to me.
Is it April 4th or April 3rd? This is April 3rd.
Oh, 3rd.
Okay, sorry, just want to make sure.
April 3rd.
do we
Yeah,
have
I'm sorry.
tickets?
I just keep forgetting it goes to Monday because who's staying till Monday? I can't. So anyway, I'm very excited to introduce you to all of our colleagues at the NSBA and seriously, we need to work on that introduction. Okay, and I think I see have no other business. Is there anything I'm forgetting?
The other public comment?
Any public comment?
There is none on
No,
the queue.
there is not. And thank you to Mackenzie Ryan for hanging in the Zoom.
Yeah, thanks, Mackenzie.
I just wanted to give one quick update from the collaborative. So if you recall, I think it was the meeting before we approved their strategic funding plan. They did go out, issue a bond for that here in the last, I guess, week or so. So they're moving forward now with the work that they need to do on their buildings. Just FYI.
Great, okay. Since I got nothing else on the agenda, I'm gonna call this meeting adjourned.
Hey, you know what? I